Welcome to Shardcast, the Brandon Sanderson podcast. We're a bunch of mega fans giving you the news, discussion, and of course, a whole lot of opinions about Brandon's works and the Cosmere. I'm Eric, and joining me is Ian.
Hey, I'm Weir Writer.
Also joining us is Alyx.
Hello, I'm Feather Rider, the other Rider twin.
Hey. And surrounded by Brandons is Evgeni.
How come you never bump Ian down the pecking order?
I mean, do you want to know the answer to that question, Evgeni?
We've talked about the arcane,
it's because
logic puzzle that Eric
because
plays
Ian and
about
Alyx
your-
were on at the 2017 episodes. There's a seniority thing, right? And I always
I'm
introduced
Argent.
Ian second on those, so Ian is always second. That's how it works.
This seems questionable.
And I
You're
have been bumped
disappointed,
from
Argent.
second on a few rare instances. Like, it does happen, but
Really?
Alex is the only one that ever goes before.
That is true. That is true. I do sometimes put Alyx before. Yeah, that's true. Anyway, who are you, Evgeni?
I am Argent.
Yes.
Argent.
Argent Valjean.
It's true because I'm always miserable. No.
You
I'm
didn't
Argent.
think that this would have Les Mis references right out the gate. Let's go. That's what we're doing today. No, that's not what we're doing today.
Well, we did
Brandon likes
Marvel.
Les Mis, I think.
We did the MCU episode last time, so
No, that was two
Oh,
episodes
snap.
ago.
Wow.
was it 2 ago? Okay.
Yeah, that was the Aether one. Thor, the Dark
Aether.
World, you know. All right. And lastly, we have Marvin. What's up?
Hi, I'm Paleo.
Hey, and I'm Chaos. And so we haven't done a Word of Brandon episode in mid last year. So it's been a while. So I've gone through everything since, and we have 30 pages of WoBs, which will not be done in this episode. And we're not even recording this as a twofer because, if it's 20 pages, we can okay, if we plan a double episode, then we get a month of Shardcast. Nice. But there's too many for that. So we can't do that. So you're going to have maybe 3 Words of Brandon episodes. And we still don't know if there's going to be a trust stream. There's no information about a trust stream at all.
50-50, they forgot they promised that.
Well, there was
Yeah.
a Reddit post that was like, this is a non-spoiler trust stream, and then that got removed. So I don't know what's going on with
What
that.
does that mean?
What does that even mean? I don't know.
Gosh.
Someone got sick, so they had to cancel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So
There was a
Only ever was
legitimate
that Reddit
reason for
thread.
the cancellation.
yeah.
But there only ever was that Reddit thread. There was never any other sort of announcement, so nobody noticed anyway. That was happening.
Yeah. You might have a lot of WoB episodes, but you guys love WoB episodes, so that's what we'll be doing for a while. And yeah, that's what's up. All right, Evgeni, you got show and tell. What do you got?
I have money.
Okay, good for you.
Is it for spending?
Yeah, all money is for spending.
What do you got?
I got coins.
Ooh.
So when I went to the Dragonsteel convention, Shire Mint Post, who did a bunch of Era 1 coins.
Isn't it Shire Post
Shire-
Mint?
Shire Postmint.
Yeah.
Shire Mint. Yes.
It's not a postal service.
They are a coin mint. Yes.
I mean, they do
are
ship
from
things.
the Shire. I had the words, just not in the right order.
We got
We're
there.
doing
And
great.
So they were in the process of developing an Era 2 series of coins, right?
Mhm.
And there was a little trading game that you could play at the convention where, attending different places and performing different activities got you those cardboard coins that you can then trade up or trade down and get a full collection. But you could also pre-order the actual metal coins that they wanted to do. And so I want to show these off a little bit. They came in this, let's make sure there's no address here. They came in this nice envelope, and everyone
Whoa.
who got one
Holy
did get their
crap.
name
Very cool.
Wow.
written
Oh, wow.
in there.
I do
and
remember
other-
the previous Shire Post Mint ones. They did send it out extremely,
They're really cool.
it's very cool like that.
It is really nice, and it has a ton of little in service of the Lord Ruler,
Yep.
and there's
Yeah.
an authentication here.
I do think that, that is all the same.
Mhm.
So this is from the Canton of Finance.
Yep.
And then the coins come in these little paper. They're not pouches. They're like just wrapped. And so we have the spin and the 5 spin, and I will open that in a moment.
Oh yeah.
We have
New denominations.
the good
here.
old irony coin,
Mm-hmm.
which has iron eyes on it. And the one that
That's
I've
a
already
2-boxing
opened,
coin.
the one that I've already opened is a breeze and a half spin. So that's how it looks like when it's opened. And this is inside.
Cool.
And there's like a little bit of information about each coin
Ooh.
that talks about like the metal composition of the coin and just a little bit of like in-world stuff.
Ooh. Gotta put that on Arcanum right there.
Yeah.
Let's do a WoW episode on the Shire post mint coins right now.
Did you get
so
the best coin?
here is that's not really going to focus,
No.
but this is what a breeze looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the back. So the Elendel breeze, and I'm just going to read this one and not do all of them, are a medium-sized brass coins of Elendel representing a 20 clips value. It is known as a 2-spin or colloquially as a breeze. And it features Lord Edgar de Legend, Counselor of Gods, better known as Breeze, alongside the steel alphabet symbol for 20. The reverse depicts the East Bridge, a suspension bridge spanning the Iron Gate River set in front of the city of Elendel. Steel alphabet on this side translates as East Bridge and 20 on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of stuff you can expect.
Mm-hmm.
They do such fantastic work. Like, what an experience to buy fictional coins. Like, good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We have not mentioned the best coin name, which is the Zinkel. There's a Zinkel.
The Zinkel. That is a pretty good one.
True.
As somebody who like participated in a modern day Mistborn RP for a while, in which all we had was Alloy of Law, and they never specify what their currency is called in Alloy of Law. We were like, do they still call them boxings in Era 2, or was that an Era 1 thing? Like all of this wealth of currency information. I'm like, man, I wish we had. My character ran a coffee shop. I didn't know how to make change over the register, how to write any of that. Now there's so many canon words for all of it.
Nice.
Such
Nice.
a well.
Yeah, because I imagine these, like, they did get all these, like, canonical information approved from Dragonsteel and stuff. They
One assumes.
They worked really
the
closely
5
with them on the last ones.
The 5 spin, which has Tyndall on it, is a hefty coin. Like that's about the size of a US quarter, but like twice or maybe thrice as heavy because this is made of steel.
Era 3, inflation's going to hit, and they're going to need to cut the weight of those coins down.
That was actually one of my favorite things about their like first campaign, where they did like the Era 1 coins versus the Era 2, was like the clips in Era 1 were like wafer thin because it was so, there just wasn't a lot of metal to go around. And then the Era 2 clips were like penny thick, and like it was really cool little world building details.
Yeah, it's like a
They
little
put
bit
lot of thought
thicker
into
than a
these.
penny.
Yeah.
So good. I do if you want fictional Mistborn money, I highly recommend it.
And like Shire Post does this for many, many, many fantastical properties. If you're interested in that sort of thing.
Irony.
So here's the irony, and then it has an ash mount on the back.
Oh,
and
nice.
I believe, well, I can read, but I think that says ruin on the back. So this is a 2-boxing called Irony, depiction of Iron Eyes.
Yeah.
Adorning its face.
What if Marsha's tattoos on the front of his face just said ruin? It's like the Joker from the first
no,
Suicide Squad
so
movie.
this
It's like
actually says-
damaged.
This says 2 in 4 different places.
Okay. That makes a little more sense.
The reason I thought it's ruin is because one of the other coins has preservation on the front and ruin on the back.
Ooh, that's fun.
That would be a good one to like coin flip. Like,
Yeah.
do you land on preservation
Yeah.
or do you land on ruin?
Yeah, that's what they use at like the casinos. Like, well, you know. Oh, Era 3, we need a mobster. It's like Two-Face, you know? You flip the coin if you live or die, but it's turn of preservation. That'd be pretty funny.
The Zinkel actually has the ruin and preservation.
Oh, really? Okay.
That
Yeah.
further proof it's the best coin.
So, and you're not going to be able to see them, but you can see like there's writing along the.
Yeah.
So that's preservation, and then. This one is not really working.
This is the highest quality experience of figuring out a zoomed-in fuzzy webcam.
Yeah,
maybe we need to get you the new webcam, Evgeni.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
So yeah, that's it. 5 coins. God, irony is such a chonker though.
I mean, it's made of iron, presumably.
A good hefty coin.
Yeah, you know.
I hope they do the thing again where you can get coins that were like misstruck and like are weird and warped, and they like put those out as like, oh, this is a coin that got like stuck between 2 coin shots in a pushing match, and it's like that was a cool way to do
idea.
Error coins.
I remember. I have a bunch of them, and during their last campaign when we were showing them off for the first time, they sent me some.
I have an ash blackened clip from Final Empire.
I didn't get this out ahead of time, so.
Did any of you get the ones that went to space?
No.
What?
I just got that.
Okay.
I do recall them saying they sent some to space.
Yeah, they had a small number of coins that like they put in a bag or whatever in a balloon and sent it to space and then brought it back down. And we're like, yep, they have been in space technically.
Yep.
But man, the Lord Ruler's compounding really shoots things up out there, you know.
Really, you can do much with steel.
You really can. Cool. Let's get into some WoBs. We have practically a buffet of WoBs, a WoB buffet, if you will.
Oh my, that's terrible, first of all. I also just want to disclaim that for those who are like not very familiar with me, I am the person on staff who doesn't read WoBs. I have no idea what's in here. I can be your audience stand-in if you too do not know things about WoBs. This is what I'm here for.
That's exactly why you're here, in fact.
My blind
it's
reactions.
because Feather is so attuned to the canon of the Cosmere. She doesn't even need to read WoBs. Like, she knows.
I don't want to pollute my canon purity with all of this like extra half canon information. No.
Well, what if we talk about investiture time dilation here, Alyx? Do you think they'll be okay? I know there's something in here about that.
Hopefully she reads that one.
So we are going to start with New York Comic Con, which was last October. And Ian, why don't you start us off?
So this one is paraphrased. It's from Wizard LVL.
Level, presumably.
Yeah. What type of spread would be Axes' Black Lotus? Referring to the magic card that is very expensive. It's like the most expensive one. Very rare. Brandon has one because, of course, he does.
I think he has multiple.
He has multiple.
Yeah. He has multiple. Yeah.
Money's for spending.
Like this friend, he has never seen that he really wants to.
Oops, I forgot to put it in mob mode. Sorry. Please continue, Ian. Now it's on screen for our viewers.
To which Brandon responded, the Night Watcher. He has gone like 24 times to the valley, but has never seen her.
That's kind of interesting. Night Watcher just didn't want to see him.
She doesn't. Oh, I was gonna say she doesn't like foreigners, but she's not that foreign.
What is an Amian?
I mean, what if he is? Like, do we know that Amians are native to Roshar?
We really don't know like anything about the origin of Amians.
They're as native as humans are. Like they came from off-world.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's like,
Do we know that for the Amians?
Yeah.
We do.
Pretty sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean they're not crabs, so I mean.
Yeah, I mean, fair,
yeah.
We do get a wob that the Sleepless came off world, so I would assume that Zia did as well. But
I feel like the Night Watcher is not interested in someone who wants to study her. and would not appear. Therefore,
Yeah, she's not into that.
She's got a mysterious vibe to maintain. So
He's too much of a tryhard. She's like, nah.
true.
Yeah.
All right. Our next wob is from Suggestive with the name Jess in the middle. Very
That's
cute.
an amazing. That's good. That's a quality username.
That's a great username.
Loyal follower of 17 shard things.
That's
and
true.
commenter on things. So
That's true. I've definitely seen this name before.
And it is a short but sweet one that asks, how did Wax earn his moniker Dawn Shot? And Brandon, reportedly with a big smile, says he was known to show up early to his duels, which is great. I love that. That is a very Wexilium thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah, it is funny. This came out before Lost Metal came out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot of like Era 2 lore that's just like no answers.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Like Dawn Shot. Oh, okay. Cool.
It's funny because it sounds like such a heroic name sort of thing. And it's not like, actually, he was just a nerd who showed up early.
Which, to be fair, it is very fitting for like his Shadows of Self prologue, where he is pretty nerdy.
He was a weird, like he was a nerd, but also a prep, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
especially for the roughs.
Yeah, so like this was probably like a joke name given to him, but it's actually a cool name. And when he became awesome, like it just stuck because like, oh, that's actually a really cool name.
Yep. I think that's
the
exactly
origin is just lame.
Yep. Dong Shot, though, which is what you initially said, Alex, is something very different.
What's it? Did I say it wrong? Oh,
yeah, well, you corrected yourself, but you'll see. That's what Marvin and I were laughing about.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Let's do more. This one comes from Iron Gnome.
We haven't done a WoB episode in a while. We're a little loopy. We're having fun a little bit.
It's my secret cap. I'm always loopy. Who asks, if a Radiant summons their shard plate on Braze, will that work? And Brandon clarifies, well, depends. In the physical or the cognitive realm. The physical, says Iron Gnome. Brandon asks, and you're asking about shards, plate specifically, says Iron Gnome. Okay, so if they have already been able to summon the plate before, it will work, but it will fail if it's their first time.
This makes sense to me.
Why does
it?
Me too. Yes, it does.
Because
I guess it does, yeah.
Because when they're summoning it for the first time, like they are bringing those subspren to them and forming their armor.
Sure.
And from then on, like those spren are always with them, like that bond is forged. So like when they go to Braze, those spren go with them. So like they can form armor, no problem. But if they're trying to create their plate, those spren aren't going to be there on Braze to create it from.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, cool.
That's my understanding. It actually reminds me a little bit of there's a new power coming to Destiny where you like one of the classes gets a bunch of little bug friends that go out and seek enemies, and if they don't find any, they come back and stick on top of you until you find another enemy to go out again. And I'm like, yeah, your little sub-sprint are just like stuck to you in the cosmos.
Are you sure this isn't like the Sleepless entering Destiny?
Sure. They're called threadlings, so it's pretty close to hordelings, actually.
You know.
Your little cloud of subspren that follow you around after you've summoned your armor. I like that.
Very good.
This next question comes from Scrimit. I'm familiar with the name, but I've never had to pronounce it. So that's that. And they ask, can transportation-based fabrials be used to achieve physical realm faster than light travel? And Brendan answered to that yes, it's theoretically possible. Basically, I'm pushing toward competing methods of faster than light travel in the space age, and Roshar is one of the ones that has access to being potentially able to do that. Which,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And like we know that the Scadrians are also like have potential, maybe likely.
I wonder where this is going.
What's the latest verdict on Oathgate travel? That was not FTL, right?
I don't know if there's anything concrete. I think Brandon was a little waffly on that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like he definitely waffles. I believe it's settled. Like the current status is it's through the spiritual realm, so it's instantaneous.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, it would be nice if we actually ever saw transportation being used in the books. So.
Are you not happy with Lezian turning into whatever he did to move around? It's like, that's totally the same thing as what Yasna and Elsecalling did.
Transportation feels a little bit like Division in that Brandon does not want to show us how it works yet because he's not quite ready to commit.
That's a back half problem. And well, I mean, I guess he's got to deal with Zeth and
really
Division and
need
Foot
it yet.
5, but
Yeah.
One hopes.
oh, I didn't specify earlier, but we've read up through Tress at this point in the Cosmere timeline and Lost Metal, so we could easily be referencing anything before then. Just so you know, that's what we do here.
I assume we are not talking about previews for future secret projects.
No,
yet?
nor the
Those
Stormlight
off
5
the
prologue. Well, there is. I think there is actually a Stormlight 5 prologue WoB. So wait, yeah.
We'll warn for
They're over
spoilers
the
if we need to.
Dragonsteel.
Yeah.
We'll avoid ambient spoilers until we get to
For
a
those,
extra
yeah.
relevant to it.
It will be nice when all these secret projects are out, and then we don't have to worry about the previews and Stormlight 5 being out.
Yeah.
That'll be nice.
So true.
Cool. So this next one, the questioner asks, we know that finer gemstones like the King's Drop can hold Stormlight longer and encases other things that I won't say because of spoilers. Presumably this is a spoiler-free Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because of the craftsmanship connecting their identity in the cognitive realm? And Brandon says, no, it's actually the crystalline structure. Fewer flaws in the crystalline structure means fewer places for the Stormlight to wiggle out. And the questioner asks, do gemstones exist naturally on Roshar, or are they all gem hearts? And Brandon says, yes, but you gotta dig through lots of layers of cremstone to get to them. So most of the time you're getting them from gem hearts. Which is, these are two totally separate but interesting things.
Mhm.
Because
Which, like, we knew there were gemstones on Roshar, but it's always nice to
yeah, but like
get it.
how? I'm like wondering how though.
Adenalsium made the content.
Sure.
Like it's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, this planet's gonna have a cool like storm, like, and like you can store the stormlight in gems. Like they need some gems. Like
Yeah, I guess Adenalsium did it. 'Cause, like, usually you need like pressure, right? You know, it doesn't work like that.
Maybe also put some fossils there so just to like troll the people.
yeah.
Yeah, he's one of those kind of divinities. Yeah. Thanks a lot. That's actually why they decided to kill Adenalsium, actually. It's like, you just keep
So he
making
can
stuff
stop.
and just trolling us. How dare you?
Look, you can't just keep making planets with weird moons. You gotta stop. This is an intervention, Adenals. Just look at Lamar. Look at Lamar. Look at what you've done.
Yeah, but that is the Aether. It's not necessarily Adenalsium, Evgeni.
Yeah.
Also, to clarify, since we are not restricted by spoilers, the other things are unmade, presumably,
Yeah.
that the questioner is referring to here. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah, and so interesting that it's like it's just a structure. It's just the nature of the gem itself. Like you can't craft a gem into a perfect gem, right?
But I was under the
Probably
impression
not.
that the cut at least has an influence on its ability
does.
to hold sunlight longer.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah. And some of that is just removing imperfections.
yeah.
It's like you can make a perfect gem, and that like if like 75% of it is perfect and 25% of it is garbage, cut off the 25% garbage, and then it's
Better.
it is interesting that this may be too in depth and too nerdy for this, but it's interesting that it is the flaws that allow Stormlight to escape, which conversely means that a perfect crystalline structure, for some reason, holds the Stormlight in place. Like there's something fundamental about this perfect structure that holds the investiture inside, which is not intuitive, I think, because a perfect crystalline structure is just like the atoms are arranged in a specific way, like in a specific lattice, right? But like it still matter. Like it's not there's still holes, right? And so why is it that flaws in that structure, irregularities in it, are what allows the Stormlight to escape?
Magic.
I think actually this is a remarkably similar concept to the way that sort of cracks in the soul allow investiture into a person. This idea that sort of like irregularities and I guess, flaws is the right term, are sort of pathways to get in or out of something that otherwise, like an unblemished surface, would not allow the passage of that investiture through. Is kind of the vibe that I'm getting.
I don't like it when you make good points.
Yeah.
Sometimes I know things.
There's also something about that crystalline structure that attracts Stormlight. It's not like it actually draws it in.
Yeah.
Like that's how they get infused in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was almost wondering if like it like a perfect gemstone would be harder to infuse, but I don't think that's true, right? Like that can't be right.
And so like the imperfections are like it can't hold on to it as easily.
No, that is weird, right? Because it's this weird one-directional flow of investiture, right? Because if the perfect crystalline structure makes it more difficult or impossible for light to escape, you would expect that it would be more difficult or impossible for light to get in.
Kind of like insulation, right? Like in temperature, kind of sort of thing.
Yeah,
works both ways.
But that's not necessarily the case.
And it's not any more difficult to like for a radiant to draw Stormlight from a perfect gem. It's just it affects the passive loss.
Yeah, that's interesting too. Yeah,
it's almost like an osmosis membrane sort of a situation. What is able to actually pass through and dissipate to return to equilibrium, sort of a thing.
Sure.
Yeah. And there certainly
pressure differentials in the
well, so pressure differential is one thing, but there are like a lot of membranes in like the in the body in living organisms are like they have one-way channels, right? So it's weird to bring molecular biology into this, but I guess it's kind of like that as well.
I mean, if we think of it's funny because I think storms are actually usually low pressure systems, but if this is a like high pressure investiture environment, like the Stormlight rushes into the lower pressure empty gem, and then after the storm has passed and the outside world is the lower pressure investiture space, the gem holds onto the pressure of the investiture inside, but does slowly leak out over time.
To quote an in-universe scholar, the high storms are invested to the hilt and looking for someplace to shove it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A renowned scholar.
Nice.
Okay, so this next one is from an interview Cosmere.es had with Brandon. They are the Spanish fan site. They're all awesome people.
They're lovely.
Love them. And it's asking about Brotherwise, and Brandon announced that they're working on a Stormlight RPG coming down the pipe. And Brandon says that there will be a Kickstarter for it, probably fall Northern Hemisphere of 2024. It's not going to be shipping out then, probably. they still need to make the game and develop the game and hopefully playtest the game. But it's coming.
Cool.
Very exciting.
Cool.
Fun.
The scary thing is that 2024 is next year, which I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all.
Also Stormlight 5-year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah.
That.
But watching recent developments in the TTRPG industry, a lot of people are developing games in this time, and it's happens faster than I ever expected.
Now we're moving on to Dragonsteel 2022 Words of Brandon, which there are a lot of. So there's a lot of these. I don't know how far we'll get. We might finish it off in the next episode, but there's a bunch. And
We'll do what we can.
there was some Stormlight readings there as well, which we'll, I don't know, talk about sometime. Not this episode, but sometime for sure. It would help if they posted the videos of those.
Yeah.
It would. Yeah.
So you can find them on Arcanum.
All right. So our first one from the Dragonsteel spate is a paraphrased WoB from TJ, which asks, Gary, the ferrochemist in Rhythm of War, did his AVR grant him physical abilities? And Brandon said, no, that AVR has mind abilities. And
Cool.
I believe the last time we saw that AVR was with Lift.
Yeah, it's
Does she
Lift's
still
AVR
have
now.
that
Yeah,
AVR
He has it.
by the end of the book? Okay.
Yep.
That's what I thought.
Sure
So,
does.
interesting.
It's very
Let's see
interesting.
what that one does.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've seen any inklings as to that. The AVR seems more intelligent than like a normal bird, but most, if not all, AVR are like that. So it's not necessarily that.
True. That's what Lift needs. She needs more weird abilities, really, and access to those. That really,
I think Lift should give Hoid a run for his money in collecting weird Cosmere magic.
That would be pretty funny. That'd be pretty funny.
I am living for book 6 when we get adult Lift and just hanging out with like Window and an AVR.
Ooh, yeah, that will be good. That will be good. Because like it's a pretty big deal to have an AVR. Like it's not
At this
common.
point in the Cosmere, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, following TJ, we have Asmodeus, another loyal member of the community, who asked, at the end of Stormlight 4, we see Dalinar create a vision where Kaladin is able to talk with a version of Tien. How interested would Hoid be to know about this? And Brandon says, that would be a 9 out of 10 on the Hoid interest meter.
That's
Or
for Hoid. That's a
as
high. Yeah.
As I like to say, on the Hoidometer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They actually have Hoidometers in Era 4, actually,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's many people in the Cosmere who would be interested in owning one. So.
They're developed by scholars in Silverlight.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's directly connected to him, of course, obviously.
Yeah, they go from Void to Hoid.
It's like a Geiger counter for like nonsense. Nonsense and shenanigans.
For spiritual nonsense.
Nonsense and Shenanigans is the name of this episode, actually.
Lobs, nonsense and shenanigans.
Yeah. I don't know. There's like it's an interesting thing that happens there, and Brandon is giving himself room to say, oh, it could be a purely romantic thing with like the spiritual realm that's happening there. It could be a more divine intervention type of thing. So yeah, I'm not surprised that Hoid would be interested in that.
Yeah.
This implies to me that this is an expression of connection that is not really possible with other magic systems. Is kind of a little bit of my takeaway here of, like light weaving. If you can get it from another place, like Hoid's probably not as interested. But if this is the only way to really accomplish this feat in the Cosmere, like that leads me to suspect that's maybe why Hoid would be so interested in this.
Well, wasn't there a thing in the Traveler that was like
Yes,
someone in
that's-
Hoid's past died? Yeah.
That was what I was about to bring up.
Yep.
Of that,
That's
it's implied there's someone. Like, I want to say there's also a WoB out there that like Hoid had a younger brother. I don't know if that's canon anymore.
I don't know about that.
no.
We're gonna get a WoB
No.
kind of about Hoid's kids in the next few episodes. That's on our list.
What?
You'll have to see. You'll have to come on to the next episode if we don't get to it in this one, Alex.
Okay, fine. I guess I can subject myself to more WoBs.
You're having fun,
perhaps.
Alex. If I say it loudly enough, that means it's more
I'm gonna
fun.
lose my reputation for like not doing romantics and not reading WoBs. The more of these that I'm on,
You're having such interesting things to say too.
I try.
Sort of around, it's a crime against the Germination, what Argent is doing.
I'm sorry, I don't have a good glass.
I do want to say in Dragonsteel, he does have a little brother,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
but that's not necessarily 100% canon anymore.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Gotcha. Good.
Interesting. Yeah, we got for all the immortals. You just got to kill all their family. You know, like that's
Mhm.
important for their character development. You know.
Mhm.
All right. Moving on, we have from an anonymous questioner: is Whimsy the most dangerous shard? Is he or are they essentially like a shard cat? To which Brendan answered, Whimsy is the most dangerous shard to your sense of decorum and self-worth. So
That does make sense.
doesn't tell us much, but
I
yeah.
think a different vessel, like if Race had Whimsy, that would probably go badly.
Raise is just bad news.
Yes.
So this is a thing that I have had with like some of the shards that we have a name for, but we haven't really seen anything of is I feel like I tend to go against other people who are like, this shard is actually super evil and being on their world would be a nightmare. Like Whimsy is a horrific clown nightmare scape.
Cloud Eldritch Midnight Mother.
What if the Whimsy world is actually just fun and kind of a good time, actually? I am also this way about Mercy. Like, people think that being on Mercy's world would just be like terrible because you just get like executed immediately. It's like, and I'm like, you know what? No, I think Mercy's nice. I've decided I think the Mercy shard is a nice shard, and that's my theory for it. I'm going to stick with nice Mercy.
And I want to say, like, you also flip where, like, we all think Invention would be a great place to live, and you're like,
I
no,
think Invention is a nightmare card.
If you want a whole episode of us talking about this, look at our Rhythm of War Part 2 epigraphs episode where me, Alex, and Ian are all discussing all of this. Plus, like David and a few other people.
Whimsy and Mercy are nice. Invention is horrifying.
Yeah, maybe
that's my theory about the shards we don't know anything
Yeah,
about.
I feel like most of us were here on that episode, actually. But that was also like 3 years ago at this stage.
Yeah.
Been a while. Oh, man.
Yeah, well, you know what? I want a Midnight Mother, evil clown, whimsy, eldritch thing. Okay, that's what I want. Okay, maybe it's all nice on the surface, but if you dig a little deeper, it's terrifying. Have Dan write that.
I mean,
nice.
Whimsy Ruin would be like a nasty combo. I feel like for sure. There's some shard combos you could throw at Whimsy to make things
The shard
real
of
bad.
Joker.
Yeah. We did a whole episode on shard hybrids, and Whimsy came up a lot on that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
This episode's just a way for us to direct you to older episodes. Nice.
It's really the Shardcast anthology.
Yeah, it's Shardcast Unbounded.
The best of.
Unbounded.
Shardcast Unbounded.
Yeah. All right, this next one. Questioner, can a shard hold on to the cognitive shadow of a person for later use? Brandon.
That is such a phrasing. Wow. That did things to my brain, actually.
Look, Alex, it's not in that way, I don't think. Not in the way you're thinking.
I mean, continue.
Okay, Brandon.
Oh,
We're having fun.
Stop.
Alex, why are you like this?
I will explain myself after we finish this question. This is a normal reaction to have. Listen, shut up.
Okay. Okay. Brandon says, yes, that can indeed happen. Questioner, without it being fully invested? Brandon, you don't have to fully invest it. No. They would have to do some investing shenanigans, but what you're asking is quite possible. Very possible. So for instance, let me give you a corner case. Ooh. You might be asking, could endowment send somebody back later than immediately after they have passed away? The answer would be yes. I'm going to tell you I have no immediate plans to do that, but it is possible within the framework of the Cosmere. So Alyx, explain yourself first of all.
Okay, so my thought about this is, so I have a thing where I think it's really super interesting and crunchy when you have like sort of immortals who do not want to be immortal.
Yeah.
And my immediate thought about this is like one of the shards sort of like making their own herald without that person's consent. Like they want to just die and move on. And the shard's like, nope, I'm going to keep you around and maybe I'm going to send you back to do things for me because I can just do that with your soul, I guess. And you don't get to move on to the beyond because I said no. And I'm like, that's crunchy. I enjoy the idea of a character who's going through that. That's a fun scenario to play with.
I thought this is going to be like a sex thing for you. Like that's what I thought.
Yeah, I know. You guys did. You guys listen. I mean,
I could fit with that, to be honest.
I mean, it is also hot. Let's be real. Like, I have a thing about Brace. Like, I'm very excited. But this is a Patreon outtake now. This part of it. We're not putting that in the episode.
We can put it in the episode.
No, but the whole herald of a shard that like is not allowed to move on. That's a lot what the fused are.
Yeah.
They are not as like explicitly held and brought back, but like they cannot permanently die without things like anti-investiture, right?
I think they needed a consent initially, though. Like I don't.
Yeah, this is my vibe. Which the way that this question is phrased makes it sound like this can be done without sort of the person's consent. Like they don't need to sign on to this.
Yeah, like
which maybe that's not what Brandon meant, but like a shard holding on to someone for later use is
my impression of what this WoB is saying is that usually like when endowment returns someone, she's immediately like shoving them back in their body. There's continuity of somewhat continuity of consciousness. This I think is more as like, okay, this person dies. Like I'm going to hang on to this soul for 3 years and then put them back into a body. There's no continuity of like, as far as they're concerned, like those 3 years didn't happen. Like it got put into long-term storage for a rainy day in the future. Whether or not it still requires consent, maybe not.
I sure hope it does.
Hopefully, one would hope.
I guess you don't consent to be a shade, though. You know.
Yeah, but Trinity is weird, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I do wonder in a situation like that, Ian, whether the shard is just like keeping the cognitive shadow in the cognitive realm, and like the shadow continues to live, so to speak, and then they just get shoved into a body. And so there is a continuity of consciousness. It's just, it's not all in the physical realm.
Maybe.
But stored in the spiritual realm, you know? Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a shadow hanging out in Shadesmar.
At least from the way I read the question, it was more like along Ian's thoughts, that it was like, they put it in cold storage, the shard, and then get it out when they need it.
I actually recall like that old introduction post that I did on 17th Shard that I've talked about a few times, where I had this idea of like, wouldn't it be a cute AU if like at some point Harmony found a way to bring like Vin and Elend back so that they could just live like a nice little peaceful life for a little bit together. And it's kind of a similar idea to this. However, the reason that often gets like brought up is because I also said in that post, like, but he should never bring Kelsier back because Kelsier coming back to life would be the worst thing ever, and nothing good would ever come of it. Back in like 2013, and I was right. I was still right about that.
Debatable.
But I'm like, oh yeah, that was like a thought that I was having along those lines. Yeah.
This next one is from unnamed questioner. Did Hoid join the World Singers just to learn about Roshar's stories? Or is there something more going on there? Brandon, Hoid never joined the World Singers. But we know if you've read the book, you know for a fact he was a member. And he goes on to say, like, can one join a group that one created is the question. Like,
was he specifically a member?
I mean, he was
founder is a member.
master.
Yeah.
As an apprentice
He's a world singer.
Sigzil apprentice to Hoid. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
which
This is-
answers
yes.
the world singer, world bringer, why are they so similar question. Presumably.
which, like, because we know it's not a coincidence.
yeah.
And so Hoid does stuff.
Hoid does stuff.
Which
Okay.
world bringers get a mention in Tress, correct?
I believe that is still the case.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do remember that.
And I think the context of it is for a world bringer like me, blah 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 blah. But I'm gonna
As like so it's probably like the global like inter-Cosmere organization is world bringers, and then Voshar sucks at naming things. So it's like world bringers, like, oh, you mean like singers? Like we have those, and just rename the group world bringers. That is 100% what I think.
Maybe Hoid's original world singers were singers.
Maybe.
Like way back.
Maybe we go
back.
to other worlds and they have other world ringers and world springers.
the good old world
springers.
bringers.
World springers are on
World
Inventions
springers.
World, actually.
For anyone who
Yeah.
doesn't remember, world bringers were also mentioned in Mistborn Era 1 as being
Yes.
around in Ancient Terrace.
Yeah, that's what Quan was. He was a world bringer.
And I think for a long time, and that may still be the case, we've thought that like we haven't associated world bringers with this kind of storytelling society that
That's
the
certainly
world
true.
singers
Yeah.
are. We've thought that the world bringers, the Mistborn version, were like kind of leadership of Ancient Terrace or sages or something like
Mhm.
that. We may need to rethink that.
I mean, I think that can also be true, though. Like,
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
We may need to recontextualize that.
It's worth a question to Brandon, like, what were world bringers doing in Ancient Terrace? Like,
yeah.
Because
Tell
if
us a little bit more
Hoid
about that.
founded the World Singers, and if he was involved in the establishment of the World Bringers, which is unclear at this point, how and why there is nuance there that would be interesting to know.
because we do know Hoid was doing stuff in Terrace during Well of Ascension that we
Yes.
really don't
Mhm.
know.
Yep.
Like, but he was kind of leading the refugee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
the connection between Hoid and Terrace is like, I want to investigate that more.
Yeah, and like, if Hoid made the World Bringers, how long ago was that? Right, like in classical Scadrial, because like, but pre-Ascension, it seemed like the World Bringers were very well established as like
Mhm.
very well respected
Mm-hmm.
in Terra society at the very least, right? Like these were the ferrochemists, the people with all the copper
That's-
mines and knowledge and things.
That's a good question of like, how long between like the ascension versus the creation of human beings on Scadrial? Like, how long was the period of classic Scadrian history?
There were a few cycles of the well refilling. We do know that.
Oh,
there,
wow.
there
okay.
were
okay.
there
Interesting.
were previous heroes, but they didn't use it like like Rashek and Vin did.
Mhm.
They used it somehow differently. I don't know. it's unclear. But the power was used
Fertilized
at
the
least
land.
like once or twice before. So
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yes, very interesting. I do want to. I would love to know like a Scadrial story, like right after Genesis of Scadrial, because like I think like a story in the Cosmere set, like right after humans are created, is like such fun fantasy storytelling. Like, what is that society like and things, and that would be very interesting.
Like people created as an adult.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like
that is crazy. Like, how does that work?
What do you do?
Yeah. Like, or like it's one generation removed from Genesis. It's like, oh yeah, I don't have grandparents. Like, what are grandparents? I don't even have a word for that. Maybe, right? Maybe there's some knowledge from the shards.
Are the shards in like making a society exist?
Yeah. Like
they just like make the humans and watch.
I definitely haven't thought about writing a story like that. That would be silly. But like it would be so interesting in the Cosmere on Scadrial, right? Brandon, if you don't write it, I'll write one eventually. I'm sure, because that's good stuff.
No more late Cosmere. Show us early Cosmere.
To be fair, I'd love to know more about classical Scadrial. I don't know how much Brandon knows of classical Scadrial, though. I gotta be honest. I think he did very broad strokes. It's like, smoke and mirrors. There's stuff before. 14 lands. What are the 14 lands? I don't know.
There are religions.
Yeah, religions.
A lot of them.
Yes, a lot of religions.
Maybe we get some of that like after the shattering of Adenalcium. Like maybe we'll see epilogues where it's like, and here's how the shards went about making humans.
That would be sweet, actually.
Yeah.
That would be really cool, actually.
Now I'm just envisioning like the end of Legally Blonde, where like it's just on screen. It's like it gives like it gives like previews of what like all the characters do after, and it's like that's what popped into my head. I'm like,
I love it.
So and so graduated with no girlfriend and no honors and no job prospects. Like,
odium.
And that person was raised. Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
I am gonna call it here because once we reach Legally Blonde, question,
we got to move on.
Les Mis, Legally Blonde. How many more pop culture references can we get in here that are really perfect for 2023? You know, it's really be hip with the kids.
I have been like humming in my head Taylor Swift's Bad Blood, but it's Ghost Blood.
Somebody write it.
Because of the next question.
Well, Alex, why don't you bring us in, Alex?
All right. I have not scrolled down. I don't know what's in this question. You're about to get my genuine reaction to whatever I am about to read live on camera.
It's not a bad question.
Let's scroll and see what we've got. Okay. Questioner, so an anonymous questioner, with all of the bad things, all of the bad things that we've seen the Ghostbloods do so far, like imprisoning Lift, is Kelsier no longer a good or mostly good person? And Brandon says, Kelsier would say he's a good person. I would say Kelsier is a complicated individual whose moral compass does not align to my same moral compass, but he never was. He would say that he hasn't changed. I would say that he has changed slightly over the centuries. Let me just state for the record that Brandon Sanderson has additionally said that Mraze would consider himself a nice person, I believe is the phrasing.
That's true. Mraze thinks he's very nice. That's true.
Mraze thinks he's a nice person. So listen, take this whole Kelsier would think he's a good person wob with a grain of salt, because Kelsier's
Can I split that hair, Alex? A person being nice versus a person being good are not the same thing. Like, you can be nice to people and still be a total asshole.
This is a similar like genre of wob, though, of Brandon not answering the question himself by telling you what the character believes about themselves, though. You can see that he has done exactly the same thing.
Scholars in world would think this.
Yeah.
Let's acknowledge that the Mraze being nice thing was in a very, very humorous context.
It was. It's true.
Yes. In fact, I believe actually the example that Brandon gave was that Mraze would consider what he did to Lift to be a nice thing to do. He was very nice to Lift, I think, is how it was stated.
Mraze is
So
nice.
we've come full circle here.
I think irony and sarcasm are things that we need to keep in mind exist in this universe.
This universe that we're in right now, the real world.
Probably in all of them.
I find this
I like that one.
very interesting, though, considering, it's the eve of Lost Metal, where it's like, Kelsier thinks he's exactly the same. And I would say he's changed a bit, which, to be honest, reading Kelsier in Lost Metal
came.
Yeah.
Yeah, this it was the release party for Lost Metal. So like Brandon's really talking around that, right? So you just realize
what
that.
a perfect question right before Lost Metal dropped. Dang. Good job, anonymous questioner.
It will, in the next sequence of WoB episodes, we will get to the spoiler stream, and that's the one where like people ask some more details about Kelsier. That we'll see. But right now we're pre-Lost Metal time. But
reversed, I think. Like this came out. The general Q&A was the day it released. The spoiler Q&A was the day before.
Yeah, sure, but it's whatever.
Yeah,
Technically speaking, but still, it's before most people have read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a spoiler Q&A for everything before Lost Metal, is what it was.
Yeah.
And I already read part of it anyway because I got it earlier. The German time.
That's true. You did. That is true. You were there.
And stayed up most of the night.
Yeah. I will point out that like there has been so much discussion and speculation about like how much does Kelsier know about / approve of the things the Rosharan Ghostbloods do? And the questioner has basically asked this directly, and Brandon did not give any answer about how much Kelsier knows about the things the Ghostbloods are doing, like imprisoning Lift, which is a little bit fascinating and frustrating to me, because I really kind of do want to know how aware of / approving Kelsier is of the Rosharan Ghostbloods.
True.
Because I think I'm dead right about it, but other people have other opinions that are wrong. So
that are on this call.
A few of them.
I would additionally say Kelsier is very similar in many ways to his Era 1 self. Like reading his points of view felt very similar. It's actually funny. I was talking with a coworker and he said Kelsier felt totally different. I was like, oh, that's really interesting, because I did not feel that way. So it's interesting. People less involved in the Cosmere that might differ, but
I think my view on whether or not has Kelsier himself changed between the eras, I think Brandon's right that like he's changed slightly. What's changed is the situation that Kelsier is in.
Yeah.
Kelsier in Era 1 is a person in an incredibly different context than Kelsier in Secret History or Kelsier in Era 2. And so because of the sort of like scope and level of problems that they're facing, Kelsier himself does not need to internally change a lot to have his interactions with the world be substantially different, I think is what's going on here.
Yeah. The situation is super different. That was exactly what I was thinking, Alex.
Yeah.
He has stepped on a larger stage, and it's a very different stage.
Yeah. He is a trauma queen.
It's fascinating because in some ways sort of the Era 2 stakes are bigger. Like he's now thinking about things on the scope of like shards and the Cosmere and protecting the planet. But in other ways, like the situation is less dire. Like he has more to like the Final Empire was such a difficult problem to solve with the very limited resources he had as like one person trying to create a revolution.
Yep.
And it was a very immediate problem.
Yeah.
Whereas all of this shard stuff in Era 2, yes, autonomy is a very immediate problem. but that's like something that came out of almost nowhere, right? And he's working on a lot of similar problems that are just, how do I make sure that we survive the next 80 years, right? Whereas Era 1 is, how do I rob God?
Yeah.
Era 1 Kelsier is a very mortal person who is attempting to use very mortal means to confront an impossible problem. Era 2 Kelsier has gained a scope of functional immortality and is now playing things on the span of centuries, sort of a vibe.
Mm-hmm. Though, how immortal is he? I don't know. If you slit his throat, what happens?
Immortal.
You know.
Functional immortality is the agelessness thing.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
He's got a twine and duct tape sort of immortality, but it's, he's there-ish.
It works.
Like Marsh said, he's
minimally
more alive than
viable
other
immortality.
ghosts, but not quite as alive as other people.
That's right. That's right.
The yard sale version of immortality.
I think I will take it. Good enough for me.
As far as his personality is concerned, it's also like we don't know in which sort of time frames or time scales this happens, but like he is a cognitive shadow. So like, and we have seen what long-term effects of cognitive shadows are in the heralds, like that they get
weird,
very set in their ways and like weird. Yeah. So that might also have slowly starts affecting him in some forms. And like, he has had preservation as well for a little bit, so that probably also warped him a little bit. That changes stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep. We had a really good conversation about that in the Moonlight's Mentor episode about Kelsier being very aware of this problem and taking steps to
which, if
maybe
you
mitigate
haven't
it.
seen it, it really should just be called Kelsier. So go watch it if you haven't.
Yeah.
We had to hide it for
We really did. We really did.
Kelsier
Era
Part
3, we probably will just call something Kelsier.
Our next Kelsier episode is going to be called Yet Another Kelsier Episode.
Hopefully.
Yep.
What, you guys think we're going to get more Kelsier in the Cosmere? I think he's done. I think we've seen the last of him, actually.
I think his story's done, Alex. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Finished. We don't get to deal with this anymore.
Yeah. He's certainly not going to be an Era 4 problem.
Book 1, Era 3, Prologue, Kelsier gets ganked.
Alex is like, this is the best book ever.
Not a problem anymore. Out of the picture.
Like mist light or something, and he's just nuked out. Yeah. Boom, done.
I'll support any shard who gets rid of Kelsier for good.
Any shard.
You can have my fealty.
You heard it here. Any shard.
You yeet Kelsier into the beyond. You are my best friend.
Okay,
get him out of here. I'm done with him.
Alex has her clear allegiances here.
I cannot stand this slander anymore and will advance the episode to the next question.
See, this is the great thing when we have so many WoBs. It's like, are we in a rush though?
I mean, we don't gotta get anywhere. We get where we're getting.
A little bit.
Look, if we get 4 episodes out of it, that's fine.
That's the next episode's cast's problem.
Yeah.
How much progress we made? Who cares?
Welcome to Shardcast Q1, where we have 2 Tress episodes and 8 WoW.
Hey. And White Sand Omnibus, good sir.
Yeah. Okay.
It's secret projects and WoBs. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all you need.
It's true, yeah.
Brandon should stop telling us things if he wants us to not have so many WoW episodes.
Right.
The burden of knowledge.
It is. I was thinking just earlier in this episode how, like, we were talking about something that we were talking about Dawn Shot, and how like, it's weird that we never knew this and now we know this, and I'm like, there are so many books out there that have information like that, and just readers don't get an answer.
Yeah. True. Mm-hmm.
And we can just be like, hey, Brandon, this weird thing that is never brought up in the books in any capacity, what's the backstory? And it's like, well, I got the backstory.
Unless it's Luther.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, in fact, yeah.
Luther's
right, Bill. in the Scadrial creation myth, actually. You know,
Lutha,
It's right
Rhea.
Ooh, Rhea, yeah, Rhea's tier, yeah. Put your comments below if you remember Rhea's tier.
We're not going to tell
I
you
have a
what it
meme
is.
idea.
You can check it up on the Copper Mind if you care.
Yeah, you can.
We don't need any more WoBs. I'm gonna have to make that after we finish.
Wait, what?
Next question.
Okay, all right, Evgeni, save us. You're trying to get us on task, and I'm like, no.
I would love to
The rails.
make it a third into this document.
Okay, go to the next one.
Is Terra, Kaladin's flame, still currently in Eurythero? Because there's a chapter where it kind of seems like she is. And Brandon says, I will answer that in book 5, so I'm going to raffle you. That at least is my plan. One of the interludes should be from her viewpoint. That's my plan right now.
I don't know where Brandon's going with Terra Kaladin, so I'm interested because like it seems like it's been so unnecessarily mysterious, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It does. I would like to see a little bit more of her.
Yeah.
Like I liked her in Kaladin's flashback with her. Like she seemed
Like they're better than Kaladin in those. He did not
Decent.
treat her well.
no.
Mhm. This does kind of feel like Brandon did answer the question. Like, has Brandon previously confirmed that Terra was at some point in Eurythero? Because it feels like if she's going to have an interlude, then this feels like, yeah, she's still around the plot and relevant. Which,
Well, I guess this does confirm that at least at one point she was there. Her interlude could be, after she's left or whatever.
yeah.
Because for people who don't know, well, obviously Terra is one of Kaladin's ex-girlfriends. Like we see her in like a brief flashback, but there is a character in a scene in Oathbringer that like her clothing is described exactly like how Terra is described in that flashback, because she's a Lethe, but she wears Thalen clothing.
Yep.
But if I remember correctly, I want to say that like she was still into him, but she broke up because like he had his own issues, and like you're not at a point where like this relationship can work.
Valid.
So I'm putting an end to it.
Accurate.
It was unclear to me what exactly happened there, because they ended their relationship because she was like, I'm going to go with like my dad or whatever to this like somewhere and work elsewhere, right?
Morn's Vault to work for the High
Morn's
Prince.
Vault.
Yeah.
And Kaladin didn't want to follow her, essentially.
Well, he couldn't. Like he wanted her to stay
because he was
enlisted.
Yeah.
Yes.
This was a thing of like she took a job somewhere knowing that it would require them to break up.
Yeah.
And was like, I'm doing this because it's not going to work. Sorry. Which honestly, incredibly healthy of her to say, I'm not going to fix him. We can try this again once you figured yourself out, maybe. Good luck.
Which Kaladin is making steps to
working on
become more mentally healthy. That who knows what the future will bring.
That's true.
Yeah.
He has different mental issues now than when they were last together. Perhaps.
Variety.
You just tell Terra, I invented therapy on this planet, okay? I invented therapy. We're all getting better together. What more do you want from me? I invented an entire way to deal with this.
Imagine up to couples therapy yet?
Couples therapy. I do not want Kaladin the couples therapist. I do not think he'd do a good job of that.
No.
Imagine being so rejected by a partner because of your mental health that you're like, I'm going to invent a science to deal with this.
I need to fix it.
Like that's
He's a fixer.
dedication.
He's a fixer.
That is dedication.
True.
I will just say, like, Kaladin also is such a person in terms of like he has really severe normal person mental health issues with like depression and seasonal affective disorder.
Yeah.
But then also like a level of trauma on top of that.
Mhm.
And then also under very intentional psychic assault from a shard attempting to get him to commit suicide, assisted by his former best friend. Like the things that Kaladin is dealing with in a mental state sort of way are really just an inhuman sort of a burden. Like
He's
oof. Good luck,
oof is a
Kaladin.
great way to
We're
put it
rooting
for
for
sure.
you.
Oof.
Oof. He's
Big
better
oof.
now. He's reborn.
So sorry, boy.
Yeah. Cool. Let's go to the next one.
Yeah.
Doing great,
next question
guys.
is from
Page
another,
5. We're on page 5.
5 of 31.
Well, usually we get to 10, Alex. Okay.
Okay.
Or should I?
All right.
I'm going to read the whole thing because
Yeah.
it's
No, this
interesting,
is
I
quite
think.
interesting.
Yeah. When a shard splinters, does it have any effect on the Cosmere that we aren't seeing yet? Which Brennan answered no. And then a follow-up question, what would be the effect if all the shards splintered? And so Brennan goes on to say that it does have, but see, there's splintering and then there's splintering. Dramatic splintering is a different event than the shards splintering themselves, for instance, or things like this. There's a whole continuum going on there. All the shards being splintered would, of course, have an effect, but it could have all kinds of different effects based on how and why and what's going on and what happened to the different pieces of investiture. We can have a full splintering where the shard is just completely blasted into pieces, or you can have a shard taking off pieces of their soul and splintering it out and sending it off to be self-aware and things like that. These are two different things. Also, there's a whole bunch of nuance in that question, but the answer is it will inevitably have an effect, and there are effects that have happened in the Cosmere that you don't recognize yet as being the effects of splintering and things like that. And things like that.
There are effects that have happened in the Cosmere that you don't recognize yet as being the effects of splintering? What?
That is the wildest part of this whole thing.
Yes.
The rest
Yeah.
is interesting, but like makes sense, right? There's so many different circumstances that a splinter
Yeah.
can happen that I'm
And
like, okay,
we have
sure.
seen these. examples,
right,
so,
right. But
yeah.
like, what does that mean? Alex,
I
you
don't
don't
like this
be on these
answer.
shows. What do you think?
I don't like this answer
Okay.
at all. Because this is the same sort of an answer as like, what is a sliver and why do a bunch of people call a bunch of different things slivers all of the time when they do?
Are you sure you don't go on WoB episodes, Alex?
It's all a farce. I read everyone ahead of time. Liz, I've just been in this fandom so long that you osmosis WoBs whether you want them or not.
Yeah,
is
you hear the
basically what's happened.
memes and the jokes
I have
about
gotten
certain
WoBs
things.
put in my brain against my will.
Kaladin will be good with a spear because he will be good with a
Okay.
spear. You know,
I'm coming at this from like a salty Silverlight scholar upset about terminology sort of perspective of like, if like forcible splintering is a completely different effect than like a shard willingly giving pieces of the. Why are we calling both of those splintering? Why don't we have a different term if they produce wildly different effects? Like, why are they
Well,
both just called splintering?
Because like they both create splinters.
No, I don't like it. No.
I mean,
I'm
it's what it is.
Yeah.
I feel like
But
this is also the
apparently-
first time like the
Splinter dies.
usually a shard creating like voluntary splinters of themselves like is not referred to as splintering. Like that's
true.
That's not a thing. Please don't make that a like fans.
Feels like it
don't do
is
that.
as of
It's
this
a different
question.
thing.
I
Because
think
like splintering and shattering are like equivalent processes. Just like one is a denulzium, one is a shard, but
Yeah,
it's the
yeah,
same thing happening both.
Yeah.
It's an autopsy, necropsy sort of thing. Same thing, just different subjects. But like a shard going is like, I am going to make an independent being from myself. That's not a splintering.
I think you can make a reasonable argument that's in that situation, the shard is splintering a piece of theirs. So like you would use splintering as a verb instead, like to splinter, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So instead of the shard splintering itself or the shard being splintered, the shard is creating a splinter or splintering a piece of their soul. And that's what a divine breath, for example, would be.
Alternative, we just refer to that as splinterizing. Different word.
Perfect.
The process of splinterization.
Yes.
Budding off a splinter.
Splinterization cast is our new
Nice. That's actually the title of the episode.
Yeah, there you go.
Who knows what this episode will be titled?
Ian, I feel like there's an obvious solution here in that the forcible splintering that's like the irreversible process where the shard is no more and cannot be put back together. We should just call that shattering if that's what we call it.
No, I disagree. Let me have my autopsy necropsy.
Also, it's an open question whether they can be fit back together, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily irreversible. He's always been very cagey about that.
It sounds like it's mostly irreversible. Like it would take extraordinary circumstances to put a forcibly splintered shard back together, like Aeona, or sorry, not Devotion and Dominion sort of a thing, or Honor, presumably.
Those two are even weirder than most.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, yeah, I think there should be a different term than like, you know, endowment given pieces of herself to bring people back to life. And then, like, presumably taking that power back and making it a part of endowment when it's no longer in use. Like, this is a wholly different process.
I think what Brandon is talking about here is, what if endowment did that to 100%?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. Because the questioner is asking, hey, what would happen if all of the shards were splintered? And so I don't think you can count endowment as she appears in Warbreaker as being splintered. Like, yes, there are splinters of her soul out there, but like Brandon, I think, is answering the question of what if she completely decomposed into divine breaths or whatever voluntarily, which I would have expected to be functionally the same as a traumatic splintering. Right? Something like ambition or honor. But maybe there is a difference.
Yeah. I just feel like the voluntary, temporary giving of pieces of a shard for magical use should not be using the same word as like the shard has been broken in a way that it does not get stuck back together easily. Like those feel like, and especially with like Brandon saying those two events are so different that they cause completely different effects in the world when they happen. I'm like, this term should not be encompassing all of these realities.
I don't think that's quite accurate because like we see like honor, like the splinters of honor are largely similar pre and post his splintering. Like like honor spren existed before and after. There's just a whole lot more spren now because there's a lot more free investiture floating around to create them from. It's just a messy situation. Like there's whether something is voluntary or involuntary is just like one subset of like a wide spectrum of things that like all have interplay on what happens and what effects that has.
Yeah, I don't like it. It upsets me.
I think like it's fine because like the full shard splintering is such a rare event and like they do create splinters. Like I do think that is like it's such a special event that like you just wouldn't say like the casual like, oh, I made an honor spren. Like this is just like it's just a different scale and like you can determine the different context pretty easily.
Anyway, catch my fanfic about a self-insert Silverlight scholar who's going to fix the Cosmere's terminology problems coming soon. To an
and the opening line is like, and what's a sliver again?
Yeah, exactly. She's going to propose that we call the voluntary splintering slivering just to mess you guys all up.
Nice.
Perfect. That's my solution.
Perfect. Good. Very good.
briefly
Breaking.
getting back to the last part of the answer, where like Gwen says that we don't necessarily recognize those effects yet. But by the first question that there aren't any effects that we haven't seen yet or aren't seeing yet, this implies to me that we have seen these effects, we just don't know yet that they are an effect of the splintering. Mm-hmm. And I guess now we can widely theorize.
Like, and
whatever that might be.
There is a cynic in me that's like, this was directed towards general fans, and that that we know things that people like normal fans don't know what the door is. We do.
Mm-hmm. Along these lines, I would have assumed this is something to do with Threnody.
Yeah, possibly.
Which is like, on one hand, we either know or just kind of collectively believe that the shades are a consequence or a side effect of the splintering of ambition, or the death of ambition. But we don't exactly understand how and what happened there. And so this could be just Brandon like saying, yeah, here is an effect of splintering that you guys have seen that you don't really understand.
Yeah, I have another idea. Honor died, and that's like, we don't even know exactly when that happened, so it's not like a world catastrophic thing. I do think that probably has a lot of subtle effects that we probably are encountering currently in Stormlight that we don't necessarily know is an effect of Honor's death, right? So I think that's a possibility as well.
Yeah, that's kind of the impression that I have, that this is something that we have like taken for granted, that like this is just the way things are and this is the way this magic works. And Brandon is going to be able to say, actually, it used to be different before this splintering happened, and it's that way now because we're after that. You know, like, and that could be anything. It's like impossible to pick out what part of reality is that way when we never saw the before picture, sort of a thing.
We just need Harrow flashbacks and then we'll find out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Let's go on to this next one. Questioner asks, in book 1, Taravangian was talking to Zeph. When Zeph confronts him at the end, he talks about the Life Brother, but we haven't heard any other references since then. Brandon, you have not. That's a raffo. And I mostly had this here because put your comments below if you remember what the Life Brother is and the one time it's mentioned in the entire Stormlight archive. Maybe we'll learn in book 5. Shin stuff, maybe.
Shin stuff. It's gotta be.
I would expect us to learn something about the Life Brother.
Yeah.
Cool.
Next question. I am so happy I have. Not because I care about this question, but it means Alyx gets the next question.
That is pretty funny. That is
doing this to me.
That wasn't intentional.
Right,
I didn't adjust anything. That was just how I only switched.
This one. I won't read the one I'm going to get either.
Yeah.
That's fortune.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what would happen if a pure tone or an anti-tone interacted with shard metal, god metal? Brandon, different things can happen, but generally, if it's the right shard metal, you're going to get a resonance or a destructive resonance to that tone. So,
what does he mean by the word resonance in this case?
I don't constructive. Like, that it amplifies somehow. I don't know how it would amplify, but
like it's like everything has a resonating frequency, and like if you hit it, like that can be very bad for objects. That's like how an opera singer like shatters glass, like that sort of thing.
I was just like not sure if he maybe meant Cosmere resonance, and I was just going down a weird different rabbit hole. So that's like, okay.
Yeah, I think this is like
actually using the
sonic resonance.
Yeah.
He's actually using the word in the way it is meant to be used instead of his own rationale.
That, in my defense, a lot of times that doesn't happen. Like, distilling. It's like, well, it's not what that word means.
I guess it should technically be a destructive interference rather than.
Yeah, I was
I
going
don't
to say
think there's such
destructive
a thing
interference is probably the term he meant there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on to the next one. Alex, just go on to the next one.
You don't want to get into the physics of waveforms? I thought this was a WoB. Okay,
Well,
all right.
We have
all right,
different
let's go.
to get into.
Off we go. Oh God. Oh God. What is this question? I hate you guys.
I didn't adjust anything, Alex. This is just how things turned out.
Agree to do that.
See, if anything, Alex, I needed to put you after Ian in the list just for this. It was your destiny, maybe.
An anonymous questioner asks, at the end of Rhythm of War, we see shard-induced time dilation. You bring a lot of investiture into a place and it slows down time. Brandon clarifies, it can also speed it up. Questioner, how much investiture would it take to dilate an area so that... Oh my... There's more.
There's a lot more.
Don't worry, Brandon.
I thought it was just that first part. I did not realize. Okay, all right, let's keep going.
It's like
Brandon
half a page more than this.
Let's brace ourselves. All right. How much investiture would it take to dilate an area so that one area moves forward about 15 years into the future while everything else remains? Like they have 10 minutes and everyone else goes 15 years. Brandon says, there are a couple of variables here. Number one is the length of the area, how fast that 15 years passes. If we want us to jump forward 15 years, in how much time? 15 years compared to 1 year, 15 years compared to 1 minute, 15 years compared to 1 second. Those are all different things. And of course, the more you're compressing and the larger the area, the more investiture you're requiring. Mm-hmm. The questioner asks again further, could two unchained bondsmiths in the course of a duel do it? I now suspect the questioner perhaps has a fanfic idea and is hoping to get confirmation. That is my editorial note as I continue reading. All right, we're almost done, guys. Stick with me. Here we go.
3 more paragraphs.
Brandon. 15 years. 15 years is going to be a stretch for what they can get a hold of, but it depends. Unchained Bondsmith, Unchained to, for instance, a deity that is no longer a vessel, controlling that power in the way it needs to have the limits on it, is going to be able to access more than one where there was some vessel there saying no. Whew. So there's one factor in it. A bondsmith can access a lot of power, as evidenced by the migration. The migration from Ashen to Roshar happened with a bondsmith powering some else calling, and that allowed for some pretty crazy things. Getting an entire population moved through a portal across that much space is a lot of work and a lot of energy. So what you're asking, I think that's stretching. Again, it depends again on how long. 15 to 1, not so hard. 15 years in a second is really hard and probably beyond what they have the capacity to do. I see what you're doing there. You saw me talk around it. All right, I think we all understood that and we can move on immediately, right?
So, for people who don't understand,
I feel like I just ran a marathon.
This is kind of getting into, there is going to be the contest of champions in Stormlight 5. And we also know that there's going to be a time skip between Stormlight 5 and Stormlight 6 of about 15 years. So it's like, is there just going to be a pocket of people that skip those 15 years and end up in Stormlight 6? Which, yeah, this makes me think probably not.
I also do not think that is the case. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which it sounds like the questioner was originally thinking 15 years compared to 10 minutes, which it does sound like Brandon saying that's not super feasible. 15 years to 1 year, perhaps, but
it's just such an absurdly high factor of dilation, right? Like that's insane. But you know, we did see Wayne dilate time so that the speed of like that. Yeah, basically to the speed of light. So, you know, it's not impossible.
Which I hate that I'm saying this, but it calls into question, like, how does that allomantic power work? Like, is it using the same mechanism of drawing a lot of investiture to itself to produce this effect, or is it able to produce an identical effect on its own with a relatively limited amount? I hate you all.
I think it's the second one, Alex. I think it's the second one.
I think it is, but it's fascinating that like a certain person can produce the identical effect without the requisite level of massive amounts of investiture in a place to do this, if you just happen to have the right allomantic power. Kind of. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
That doesn't seem as wild to me as it appears to be to you.
Here's my analogy. Like, things have heightenings, right, when they get breath, and that's sort of a passive effect of the investiture when you're holding on to it. You can get those effects in other ways, right? So yeah, if you collect a crap load of investiture, yes, it will have these ambient properties and things, but like, is what Wayne's doing at the end of Lost Metal the same as what like Dalinar's doing in compressing time with that vision with Tien? I think like no, but it is a little weird, isn't it? Yeah.
And
It's
like,
a little weird.
it's also this thing where it's like a magic system that does a specific thing, like is probably like reasonably efficient at doing that one thing, where as opposed to like a magic system that can do a whole bunch of things that like you kind of just have to brute force it to do a specific thing. Like that's going to be very inefficient.
Or even without a magic system, like investiture passively has certain effects, such as time dilation. And so that it feels natural that you would need a lot more investiture to produce those effects than if you were like channeling a specific arcana in a specific way to get exactly those effects and nothing else.
Like it has the same effect in the end, but the mechanics to get there still at like time bubbles do not operate on this sort of time dilation effect in any, like it's time dilation technically. I'm not sure how the real world term is applied, if it's only like gravitational effects that are called time dilation, but anyway, like it's doing some other thing, maybe like in the spiritual realm it is some hack that in this localized area the time just flows faster, and because in the spiritual realm it doesn't matter anyway, so it works, while the other one is just a consequence of the physics of the thing, of investiture, mass, energy equivalence. So it's mechanic, like it's the same effect in the end, but mechanically might be something completely different.
Potentially.
Potentially, yeah.
I have another thought.
Yes.
And it's that because I think we're all thinking along the same lines of sort of what you mentioned, Marvin, about like the similarities to IRL, real physics, general relativity, like gravity time dilation or speed time dilation. Like the closer you get to the speed of light, time does things. And I think maybe that's actually not the best equivalent for sort of investiture-induced time dilation because of this first thing that Brandon has said of it can slow things down or it can speed things up, which makes me think this is not a natural passive process that always happens when you have a massive investiture in this way. It's something that needs to be done with intent and requires a lot of investiture.
Maybe.
Like you have someone who is intentionally pushing, speeding up or slowing down time.
It's a push or
and
pull.
That requires a lot of investiture. But just having a lot of investiture in a point does not necessarily mess with time on its own unless there is an intent pushing and pulling on time with it. I think is what is the only thing that makes sense there.
I do think Brandon has said that just a big enough hunk of investiture would have effects with that. However, I think maybe like it only goes one way naturally, and then like you need a magic to like be like it can do the other way, but yeah, you do need to do an intent thing to do that.
You can inverse the polarity.
Yeah, sure. Inverse the polarity.
Yeah.
That's not a science. That's just making things up.
This actually makes me think like, God, who am I? When we start talking about, I hate this, Cosmere faster than light travel.
Mhm.
You have entities in the Cosmere traveling at speeds nearing the speed of light or beyond the speed of light. Can you use investiture time dilation to cancel out those effects and make it so that time passes at a similar rate in the faster than light space as it is in the world around it to sort of make it?
Okay.
Can you do that? Can you push it further the other way and make it
also
even more extreme?
So you don't lag behind the rest of the world.
Can you make those two time dilations counteract each other in that way?
That has always been how I thought Allomantic FTL was going to function. Because like we have like the speed up and slow down time, or like somehow they're going to travel very rapidly, but not mess with their timeline.
There's weird things that happen if you're actually going faster than the speed of light that is beyond my knowledge of theoretical physics. However, I do kind of like this idea. I like this idea. This is
at least
neat.
to like near light speeds. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you want to get across a galaxy faster, you need to be going a lot faster than light speed. you just do.
Yeah. I did see a headline recently about how it's possible that if our universe were not flat, which we believe to be, but spherical, you can, by going FTL, travel back in time.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird things with the shape of the universe that like the cosmological constant, I believe. This is very deep physics. This is forbidden lore right here. Don't
worry, guys. Brandon is gonna call his physicists, and they're gonna figure it out.
I want everybody to know that I am the sort of person that in my fictional universe for the novel that I was writing, I decided this part of general relativity sucked, and that's not the way that it works in my universe. And time does have constant speed everywhere. You can mess with it a little bit, but it has a natural constant. And I'm like, my brain likes this better. So
it's fantasy.
How dare you make me engage with this
maybe really in your series it's a bunch of different time dilations canceling each other
bad. Actually bad. Cool.
Do note GPS won't work if you don't do that.
Let's speed up time and go to the next question.
I mean, I think that would just happen anyway, but
which we pulled from. So we are still talking about the spoiler-free Q&A, but we there was a relevant question up in the spoiler Q&A.
No, this is from the spoiler stream.
Yeah, this is the December spoiler stream later.
Okay, another spoiler thing. That's relevant to all of this, and so it's good to talk about it here.
Yeah, let's have Alex be on the show for more of this.
Yeah. No, she seems to be having a lot of fun with this.
I think
so we don't want to lose her.
So much fun.
You heard it. She said it.
She said it. She said it with intent, even.
And the question goes: does the dead body of a shard pull at time and space, thus causing time to pass slower in that place in the Cosmere, almost like a black hole?
That is very relevant. Yeah.
And Brandon says the following: it could go either way in the Cosmere, depending, but the answer is yes. A large amount, like a deific amount of investiture will... Any amount of investiture will cause a bit of time dilation, but the amount you are getting from even a shard pull is not enough to be noticeable. I see you, Brandon, using the term shard pull. I see you.
It is really funny how like we have the term perpendicularity and Brandon's just like shard pool, just because like fans don't.
I mean, they're not exactly the same thing.
That's true.
So the amount you're getting even from shard pool is not enough to be noticeable. I mean, it is. You can notice it even on our planet if you take a jet that goes fast enough. So it is noticeable, but not relevantly noticeable. We're talking about a slippage of a day or so in a year, even off of a shard pool. Don't canonize. I'm making numbers up. But that's what we are talking about. There are chunks of investiture of deific nature that can cause amounts of time dilation that would be virtually impossible in our universe without you becoming one with a black hole. There is a story I want to tell, and I don't know if I'll ever get around to telling it, about an entire society that rises and falls in several seconds of time dilation to everyone else. I want to be able to tell stories like that, and you couldn't do that in our universe. But that's part of the reason we have the Cosmere.
That's a cool, really cool story idea.
There's a Star Trek Voyager episode that plays with that,
which is wild to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Destiny. There's an entire Destiny race that has that as well.
I am not surprised that there is an entire Destiny thing whenever there is something Cosmere we talk about.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite Destiny lore bits is like the Awoken's pocket dimension, where they had just like thousands and thousands of years of magic development, and then came back to our universe after a little while, and we're like, we're here to save you with all of our super advanced magic tech that we developed in our paradise pocket world. It's cool.
Cool. This is good context. I think we discussed basically all of this, but I did just think it was very cool that.
We also briefly talked about this in the Ghostblood episode. Namely that maybe Cell might be like affected by this in some form, and like travel to and from Cell is weird, and how time passes on Cell after.
Well, I'm glad you asked, Marvin, because there's a WoB that Argent asked about Kais, but I think we'll save that time dilation fun for later. Because that it goes off in a little different direction. And so we'll definitely talk about that. Spoil stream was good.
We definitely have like outstanding weird time dilation questions in the Cosmere in terms of like, how does Hoid dilate time? Because we know he has not lived through all of the eras that he has existed. Through. Sort of a, what's up there? What are the other world hoppers also doing a thing there to skip their way forward? And like,
look, Hoid just uses cadmium.
There's always another secret. Does he? Or is there something else he's doing?
He's a Mistborn.
I mean, there were many, many thousands of years before he was a Mistborn.
Well, sure, but now he can just use cadmium. Even easier.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
Okay. Moving on to the next question.
Nice.
Now from the convention again.
Yep.
So the question asks, we have some idea that autonomy is fiddling around in Rosha and in Scadrial. This was before the Lost Metal came out, so we definitely know autonomy was fiddling around.
Yes, we very much do.
For an answer to that and other places. Follow-up, considering her involvement with the Ghostbloods, has she directly interacted with Kelsia/Thydacar? Shwen answered Raffo, and the question then follows up again, whether she has or not, what is her opinion of Kelsia? And Brendan answered, you're asking directly autonomy, not one of her avatars. Directly autonomy likes Kelsia and respects Kelsia. Autonomy is a fan, shall we say.
Kelsier taking autonomy right there. Boom.
Also, Bovidin, Kelsier fangirl.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, he's basically stolen her MO. So, like, going around putting himself in front of a bunch of different religions. Like,
Raze even says Kelsier comes to Roshar on an avatar. Easy. I bet autonomy doesn't like that.
I believe I specifically called out that I thought that Kelsier had like stolen autonomy's avatar sort of like terminology for his Sion and Ask nonsense. Like,
it's possible.
And then we later found out I was right. So I was aware of this WoB ahead of time. I did know about this one.
Can't
There's
imagine.
more
that's-
fuel for my fire that Kelsier is the worst. If
I don't begrudge him, because that's like, right. So when you are let's say you are young and you and your friends are playing like RPGs and stuff, like you are home brewing settings and stuff, but you are a little more well read than your friends, and so you know of like fantasy worlds and things like that, and you just inject elements of those worlds into your own homebrew. That's what Kelsier is doing. He's like, he knows about shards and splinters and slivers and investiture and avatars and things like that. And so when he shows up to the stupid people of Roshar who know only a little bit of these things, there's like words at them.
I mean, Kelsier is a con artist who has like ganked Autonomy's game. And I think Autonomy is the sort of person who is both like a little bit amused to see a random mortal trying to pull this off, and also a little bit impressed, but also probably a little bit frustrated, and would prefer
all
maybe
those things.
to bring him into the fold and have him do that in a way that is legitimate, that she could perhaps control.
Oh, yeah. What if instead? Yeah. What if Autonomy tries to make Kelsier into an avatar? Like it happens the opposite way of what I was
100%.
thinking.
I think she would recruit him in a heartbeat.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think the Raffo is that she's already like given him a sales pitch, TBH.
Maybe,
That's
like,
my vibe.
maybe she approached him before, like she went to Telsin, and like Telsin for some reason was like, no, I don't
Why
need
would
it,
you
right?
want
I don't-
Kelsier unless Kelsier had already turned you down?
yeah, exactly, right. So
Damn.
who knows? Maybe something happened there.
I have a question. The opening premise says we have some idea that Autonomy is fiddling around in Roshar and in Scadrial. How much with Roshar? What?
I think this is something to do with the fact that we know that like Autonomy and Odium are kind of working
Sure.
together-ish.
And like the color red with a lot of things,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. I don't know that we have specifics.
Yeah,
but
I think that's a bit of a jump.
It might be that fan theory, like we killed you at the end.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Old
Sure.
dinner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that could be it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and like stick a pin in this as a theory of like Autonomy made a avatar sales pitch at Kelsier and really probably could have gotten him to say yes, but probably did something just a little bit wrong and is frustrated that she messed up the recruitment by that much. Like I think this was actually a Kelsier and Marasi XP of like, you were that close to sealing this deal and they walked away in the end. I think that's probably what happened here.
I think it's going to be a difficult sales pitch. I think Kelsier is going to find it difficult to like accept help from a shard in that capacity. I think he ironically has a very strong sense of autonomy.
It's true. It is true.
Mm-hmm.
Like his whole thing is like protecting Scadrian dominance. Like it's like outside interference. Like Kelsier ain't for that.
But now you can have the power to protect Scadrial. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's a way to do it. I really like that theory, though, Alex. I could totally buy that.
I think there are terms that Autonomy could have given Kelsier to get him to accept. Because I think in a vacuum, like, forget about Scadrial, I think Kelsier would be more than happy to serve in an avatar-like capacity and be a little bit of his own actual god over a weird pantheon. But
I don't think Kelsier's very good at serving.
Yeah, he likes being his own boss, so I don't know.
He's not a bottom, he's a top.
Yeah.
no, but the whole point of like the Autonomy pyramid scheme is that like you say that you're gonna serve, but you are actually there to try to claw your way up to the top, and
It's
those
true.
are the sorts of people that Autonomy is into.
That's
Which
true.
Kelsier would definitely be willing to play that sort of a game to try to win it all and take the shard, I'm sure, at some point. But
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Kelsier as autonomy, the shard. It's good.
Yeah. I think autonomy did not set the initial terms in a way that felt protective enough of Scadrial. And that is probably why Kelsier walked away at the table in this theory pin that I
If that happened, yeah, for sure. All right. So this next one is from Lotus, who asks, can we get any pronouns for Iona and Sky? And Sky is this boy, and he does not want to be on camera here. He looks really upset.
Hi, Sky.
A boy no longer.
No. Brandon says, Iona is definitely a she, her. I'm going to go with she, her with both of them, so you can talk about them accurately. That's how I picture them currently in my head. I've not written those books yet, so it's subject to change, but I have she, her for both of them. Well, I didn't know that when I had a male and female kitty cat, so... Wow, he looks so annoyed.
He's thrilled to be on Shardcast.
Yeah.
Those ears are back.
I do want to say that, like, when answering this question, like, he answered Iona, like, very quickly.
Yeah.
And then he stood there thinking for, like, a good 30 seconds before commenting on Sky.
It's possible. How you doing, buddy? Okay.
I love it when cats are just so uncomfortable and they just want to put their heads back into their bodies. Just like
yeah. Yep. Cool. Well, anyway, sorry. Hello to Sky. He is a very cute cat, but you wouldn't be able to tell from that.
Also, shout out to Lotus.
Yeah,
Lotus. Hey.
Hi, Lotus.
Okay.
So this does confirm that Iona and Sky are a BDSM lesbian couple, right? That's canon at this point.
Canon,
they could be sisters.
That's exactly what it
sisters.
says there. Boring.
Not mutually exclusive.
I mean, especially when you're talking about gods, like,
but they weren't always
pantheon relationships.
Look, things change when you ascend, I guess.
Who knows what kind of a society Yolan had, right?
First you hit puberty, and then your body changes, and then you hit shardery, and your entire soul changes.
Is this an outtake? Is this not an outtake? I don't know.
I think this is in the episode, but we should stop here before we get into trouble.
Next question.
Yeah.
Next question.
Hi, YouTube.
Could you use Aeon Door to manipulate connection? If so, would a real Aeon Door smarty be able to do something similar to a bondsmith? Brandon, the short answer to your question is yes. Let me give some explanation.
Let me give you
even when you are seeing some things happening in Elantra suit itself, you are seeing them manipulate connection. It is mostly reinforcing connection, but it is, in a way, manipulation. Rewriting connection, rewriting identity are both things that they can do. So with enough power, with enough smartiness, what a bondsmith can do can be done. In fact, we have seen short-range else calling done by... Obviously, else calling's not bondsmithing, but you know that a bondsmith powered a big else calling to migrate from Ashen. One of the big things you've seen a bondsmith do is get people between planets, and you have seen people use Aeon Door to else call. You've seen them lightweave. You've seen them do a lot of these things. They could also do some of this same stuff. Basically, rule of thumb is almost anything in the Cosmere that is possible can be replicated with Aeon Door with the right program. But you may need an injection of investiture in certain ways.
Hilarious considering Lost Metal and Tress reading the swab.
Yeah.
Amazing. Because it really can just do anything. Yep. Also, this whole you've seen a bondsmith power big else calling really seems like one of those Brandon solidified something solid in his brain and really wants to tell people about it at this event, which there's always some things like that, which like he's never really said it quite like that before.
No.
Like, now we know.
Now we know. I mean, makes sense, but important to know that we've seen in Elantris them lightweave, right? And now in Tress we saw them do that more. But it is just a light weaving, and like the Aeon Door teleportation, it's just else calling. what Lesian's doing. Not else calling, it's something else, but okay, sure.
I mean,
it is still else calling.
Debatable.
Yeah.
It's in like under the umbrella of else calling.
Yeah. Alex, I think this is a great question for you as well.
There's many paragraphs on this one, I see. All right. Let's see what we got in here. So, memory is tied to some level or portion of spiritual identity, or else ferrochemists would not be able to store it. So, Hoid lost memories at the end of Rhythm of War in his exchange with Odium. Would that mean that part of his soul was stolen and then absorbed into Odium? And if so, what is stopping Odium from doing that with all of his enemies? I don't necessarily agree with the premise of this question, so I'm curious what Brandon's about to say. Brandon says, basically, what Odium split off is stuff that Hoid is storing in excess investiture. Basically, it was breaths in Hoid's case. And this sort of thing, where this extra memory, one of the reasons that Hoid is able to function better than perhaps some other very long-lived individuals, is he has found out how to keep some of this identity in, shall we say, SD cards made of investiture. Imagine that sort of thing. So what Odium is stealing from Hoid was straight out of an SD card, which means that it's not nearly as deeply ripping into someone's soul and is also not nearly as noticeable. But the other thing is, Hoid is directly in violation of certain agreements that have been made, which therefore exposes him to... he is lacking protections. You'll notice in the end of book 3 where he's like, I need to be careful because I am in violation. And so there's a couple of things going on here. Number 1, much more easy access to those memories. Number 2, Hoid is in direct violation and under no protections of any sorts of agreements and things like this.
Is that book 3 that Hoid's saying that?
I believe it's in a conversation with Dalinar. He doesn't use that phrase, but he basically says, I think it's Dalinar is asking him, Hoid, like, can you do something to help us? And Hoid basically says, like, I can't draw attention to myself because if they found out I was here, they'd destroy me, basically.
Which is really funny.
I want to say that's in Words of Radiance.
Yeah, that might actually be in Words of Radiance, actually. But yeah, it's that kind of a conversation where Hoid basically says, like, he has to stay in hiding because he has an additional level of vulnerability to shards being able to do stuff to him.
There's also a little bit of the, I think, Oathbringer epilogue, like when he's sneaking around Kholinar, right?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And I guess the only reason he could, like, expose himself to Odium is like, okay, they signed the contract, so I'm good for a bit. Right?
Yeah. This is interesting. Are those protections like global to, like, because we don't see shards smiting humans. Like, we don't just see people getting disintegrated because the shard doesn't like them.
True.
Like, is that because like mortals are under some sort of protection? Like, did the shards make a formal agreement that, like, hey, we're not just gonna disintegrate people when we're gods? Like,
it's so rude.
Is that a thing that happened?
I mean, obviously we don't have a reason to think one way or the other, but I don't think so. I think this is like, you don't go around and just randomly annihilate ants for no reason.
I don't like that analogy.
I disagree with you, Argent, but continue.
Because, like, if you were like an ascended god ant, your perspective on ants would be very different from like a human looking at
That's
ants.
a good point. That's a good point.
Like these people used to be human. Like, they have a much stronger emotional connection to this like level of awareness and sentience.
But they also don't have any personal connection to most of the people who exist in the Cosmere.
How much empathy?
It's still very different than ants.
I don't know. I feel like oftentimes when I think about how I would be if I were a god, I don't think.
To consider.
Well,
continue.
It is
For
funny.
you have to be personally.
You
Go ahead.
you have to be prepared for eventualities. Smiting mortals is very low on my priority list because they are so far beneath me and so insignificant that that's not, it brings me no pleasure. They're not a threat to, it's just petty. It's just
Evgeni,
petty.
I totally disagree. If I'm ascending
Yeah.
the godhood, I'm
Aggressively
smiting
disagree
a
with you.
ton of people instantly. I'm transforming
I
this
disagree with all
world.
of you.
This
I disagree
this
with
world
both of you for different reasons.
substantially.
Yeah. My philosophy is I wouldn't go around smiting people willy-nilly, but if there's one person that is causing problems,
Yes.
no,
Yeah.
I'm no more.
Yeah, if you're a
get outta
god and
here.
you know whether someone's innocent or guilty, then you can just smite them with perfect knowledge. That changes a lot of things.
But what
Okay.
are problems to your deific nature? You are so far beyond all of these things.
But they're not.
All right, y'all got to hold up. I have to explain all the ways in which you're wrong. So,
Nice.
I think Ian is spot on with this. That yes, in the case of a certain mortal is presenting a threat to your objectives and potentially your godhood, I think that attempting to smite a mortal is something that many of the shards would want to do. I don't think they are capable of doing this.
Mhm.
I think specifically shards are not able to do this, and I think it does have to do with these protections that Brandon is talking about, that Hoid is vulnerable in this way that normal people are not. And I believe this has to do with the fact that we know that shards are in some way bound to their word in a way that mortals are not, which I do suspect. I think maybe this is not a natural process. Maybe this is something like an agreement that the shards have made about the ways in which they are going to interact with normal humans, that they are all bound to. Which, if they are all bound to it in this way, it makes me wonder if this was perhaps could be a reaction to the way that perhaps Adenalcium was comporting themselves.
Oh, that is an
If
interesting idea.
The shards decided, we are going to make a pact that we will be bound to, that we will interact with humanity differently in this way.
So, on the matter of smiting, we do have a WoB that I remember because I actually read that back on the episode where we covered it, I think.
I was
Where
wondering
somebody
what's going to
literally
bring up the
asked,
smiting wob.
can a shard just smite people? And when answer basically it depends where they are. So endowment, or what the situation is, endowment could, Odium couldn't. Presumably because he's not invested in the planet in the same way that endowment is in Navras.
And wasn't there a thing with opposition potentially that you could, but if you were in shardic conflict with others, that could lead to an opening, which would be undesirable, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That was my recollection.
Yeah, the web WoB didn't, it was literally just yes, they can, depending on location.
But endowment wouldn't have that problem regardless.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Can we find that WoB actually real quick?
Oh, sure, yeah.
I'm curious about it. As someone who is not familiar, but it sounds like, once again, maybe I was right without needing WoBs, because my canon brain is so pure and wonderful.
Wow.
Easy.
You're so humble, Alex. You're so humble, Alex. This
here's
is so
the
fun.
WoB. Here's the WoB you seek.
Okay.
It comes to us from 2018, the Skyward Seattle signing.
Ooh.
Remember when we had signings? Good times.
I do remember.
Wow.
Back in the
Bygone
before days.
Eras.
Randy D asked, can a shard just smite someone? Boom, you're dead. And they die. And Brandon Salamanderson says, so shards can do this depending on where they are. For instance, Odium can't, but endowment could.
I think there was a more
That's
recent one, though, wasn't there, Marvin?
There's got to be.
Yeah, I'm under the impression
This
too,
seems
but
familiar
maybe,
to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I want to.
Maybe we just talked about this one on
Yeah,
on
maybe.
another episode. I don't know.
This is just more terrifying because that means the shards could do it and they're just not for some reason.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
I don't feel as safe
Yeah, no, I like
In
it. I like it
Cosmere.
though. I like it.
I think there are stipulations, and I suspect it's probably something similar to what's going on to Hoid about like, if you do this, there are consequences, and you are making yourself vulnerable perhaps to others in a way that most shards are unwilling to do for the sake of getting rid of a troublesome mortal. They would rather pick safer methods to do that are not going to directly expose themselves.
It always reminded me, like, why couldn't a shard just create like rearrange the atoms to like make a body and then you just talk to someone, right? Why do you have to go through these weird, complicated workarounds? And like, I feel like this is the same sort of thing. You could directly interact with the matter, but that like leads to problems, which especially on like Scadrial or Roshar, that would lead to issues. Although if Sazed's alone, then good things. We have something to look forward to with Discord, maybe. is what I'm saying.
If anybody knows if there's another WoB about whether or not shards can smite people, let us know, because now I want to see it. That's what happens.
I am leading us into the next WoB, which is from someone whose name we don't know.
Presumably they have a name.
We just don't know it. Yeah.
Maybe it's questioner.
Maybe their username is questioner.
You don't know.
Yeah. It's really heavily implied in the first Oathbringer letter that the shards made a pact not to settle near each other. Given that a full half of the shards ended up doing just that, what is the cost from them breaking their oath? You implied earlier there's always a cost for Hoid for taking his protections. And Brandon says the wording of those things allows them to agree together, but it also gives them a little bit of power over one another. And you've seen the side effects of that on the planets where it's happened. Presumably that's referring to Roshar and Cell.
And Scadrial,
and Scadrial.
And Scadrial, yeah.
Maybe other places that we don't know, potentially. But
it has not gone well for any of them. If you kind of run the numbers on that. But the wording of it allows two later on to say, okay, we both agree. If one said no and the other one said yes, they'd be in trouble. This should imply to you that Odium did get permission as well.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Like,
this feels very in line with what I was thinking on the last question.
So, that Odium line is incredibly interesting because, like, does Odium need permission to just go to Cell and kill some shards? I'd say probably no, but probably more like I'm settling and investing. I would probably say more yes.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting implications for the Rosharan system, right?
Yeah, because like the pact was not to settle near each other. Yeah. It does not like say anything about coming to visit and
I'm visiting.
Drive by splintering.
Back to splintering.
I wonder if perhaps Roshar was a trap. That honor and cultivation set up a thing with the express intent of like trying to get Odium basically into their neighborhood so that they could lock the door behind him, which is it'd be a fascinating motivation between the two of them.
I mean, very plausible considering the early timeline is confusing and like, could Odium invested on one of the planets on Scadrial and also do some of these other things? I don't know. Like killing other shards. But let's assume he invested after he like went to Cell and dealt with ambition, right? I think honor and cultivation would be like, hey, you know, who else is going to deal with this? Like we have an opportunity and maybe taking it.
I was thinking something similar, which I don't think works, but I was thinking that maybe Odium's plan was to show up in the system and, you know, splinter one or both of the shards. And they somehow like invited him to stay, and that's what trapped him.
No, because both sides have to agree. Like they could say, like, "Hey, you can come settle here," and Odium's like, "Nah," and that would put an end to it.
Sure.
That's why I thought it wouldn't work. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fascinating idea of like Odium willingly steps into the trap because he thinks he can get the better of them and take Roshar for himself. Meanwhile, actually, what's fascinating is if this was a trap, perhaps the end goal was to get rid of Race, to get Race out of the driver's seat and put somebody else in charge of Odium. And like cultivation has been like, this was the plan all along and has now fulfilled their objective, though perhaps made things worse in the process. Even though like it cost Honor's life, so to speak, to try to accomplish this.
It's fascinating. I almost wonder if they set it up in such a way, they dealt with the magic in such a way on this Rosharan system, like with the surge binding and things, that Odium couldn't help but be like, this is very interesting. What if we use this for ourselves? And like that sort of leads to Odium, manipulating things on Ashen and things. Hard to say how much involvement Honor and Cultivation had on Ashen and what that all looked like. We have no idea. There's deep lore here, actually. Super deep lore right here.
And we also know that there's at least one Dawn Shard in the Roshan system. Like, we don't know if it was there at the time that like Odium settled there, but like that could also be like a motivator that maybe Honor and Cultivation thought, okay, we can overpower him with this somehow, and that Odium also was like, oh, this might be nice to have somehow. So I don't know, maybe that also was a factor for them, like both agreeing to him settling there.
Sure.
There's something interesting here in the idea that Hoid is also subject to like shard level oaths. Like, it makes me wonder if he was perhaps present during this oath swearing ceremony and is therefore subject to the same sorts of vulnerabilities for breaking them, which calls to question what is the actual like rule that Hoid has broken, that he felt this level of vulnerability was worth doing.
Very
like,
true.
What's happened there? Because clearly, like, opening yourself up to getting smited by a shard is a real dangerous thing to do, especially when you're Hoid on somewhere like Roshar. What was worth that level of risk to him? That's a fascinating question.
I do think mortals can swear oaths with shards, and that they would be bound, but like I guess like I imagine like these sorts of oaths are like sort of the rules are sort of written in the investiture, and so like I guess mortals don't have a lot to deal with there, but so that's
it's like
interesting.
They can be like they're a valid party, but it's a whole lot easier for them to break it. Like there aren't as many like hard and fast like hooks inside them preventing them from doing things.
Ooh, so that probably means that shards specifically don't want to make oaths with mortals, because like that could cause some hole in their power.
That's canonical. Honor straight up said that of like Odium is not going to want to make a deal with you because it's going to cost him way more than it's going to cost you. That's going to be his last resort, and your goal is to get him to that last resort point. But that begs an interesting question.
Dalinar's a very weird thing, though. He's not just some normal guy, right? It's a little different of a situation, right? He is commanding what remains of Honor.
Yes, and so he is a bit of a special course. Like I don't know how much Honor knew about that.
No, that's true.
But because basically the special thing about Dalinar is that like he can stand in for honor in honors agreements, which is scary in its own right.
Sure.
As separate from like deals like he makes as mortal human.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of the way deals work in the Dresden Files, where the more powerful you are, the bigger the repercussions are if you break the deal. It's essentially your power. Like, in Dresden Files, the power comes back and like hits you when you break your word. And the more power you have, the harder it hits you. And if you're just some Joe Schmo, that's not a lot.
There's almost a sense of like Shardic collateral being hinged upon their agreements of like, if you renege on the deal, you have, a portion of your Shardic assets are now
in
jeopardy.
Yeah.
Sort of a thing.
I think that's probably a good reason why shards probably don't interact with regular people that much. Because it can be dangerous.
I mean, you can't enter into deals accidentally. That stuff requires intent.
Sure, but like, it's just easier if you like make a few deals versus 10,000 deals to deal with. And like, even though you have an expanded mind, like, who knows what could go wrong, especially if there's an enemy shard on there. Like, you would breaking one of those deals leave a hole that like another shard can exploit? Seems like the answer is yes. I think that's what happened with Teravangian. Is Odium made a pact with Teravangian about the protection of Kharbranth, not realizing that Teravangian was Cultivation's sleeper agent to destroy him. I think that's literally what the plan was here, and I think it went off without a hitch, except Cultivation maybe did not realize that Teravangian might not be any better than Race is the issue. But did Teravangian exploit the oath that he made with Odium, though?
I would not be surprised if
impression.
I would not be surprised if it played a factor in the level of access and connection that he had to Odium to be able to sort of make the strike in the way that
I believe in, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, Odium had an interest and connection with and like Odium decided to like do that thing to be in the vision, right? With him, and like Odium didn't have to do that.
Yeah, there's some interesting follow-up questions here that I like have of like, would there be consequences for Dalinar breaking his pact for the contest of champions with Odium that he's made? And like, did Teravangian's pact with Race play a part in his sort of ability to defeat him and ascend as Odium himself? Are kind of both of those. I'd be curious what Brandon's answer would be in those cases.
This is deep, crunchy shard lore, and I'm all here for it. This is all the good stuff that I want. And also just helps me realize, hey, maybe don't manifest to mortals. That might be problematic, because I always felt it was so weird how Ruin has to work so hard to spike someone just to like talk to them a bit. You're a god. Make a cat talk or something. I don't know. Like, how's that freaking hard? Like, there are clearly some reasons why they can't do that.
Talking animals are a common thing in the Cosmere. They become familiars.
Associated with highly invested individuals.
Yeah. Shards are known to have many familiars.
Yeah, we see that all the time.
Ian's not bitter.
No,
I'm just like, Brandon, like, you can't just say things that aren't true.
I mean,
clearly he can.
He absolutely can just spitball. It's like, I think it's probably this. He does it all the time.
Hoid is pulling someone's leg and just saying whatever he wants. Yeah. That's what it is.
But that was Ulam. Ulam said that.
Ulam said
we were joking.
Hoid is telling someone what Ulam allegedly said.
Yeah.
I think the story's factual, Argent.
And maybe it was some weird Kandra joke where, like, okay, because Tensoon was in an animal body and was like the companion to win. So
that also gets touched on as a separate part, where it's like sometimes it's my people, but not exclusively.
It's fun to see somebody else having a reaction like mine in one of these questions. I'm enjoying this. Yeah, it's fun.
I really needed to hold my tongue about Ian saying the shards were humans before, and I wanted to make like the thing about that more of them should have been dragons because humans.
Yes. I was more referencing to they were on the human level of existence.
Yeah.
They were mortals. Yeah.
I will say,
all right.
Joking real quick about like how humble I am about being right about things in the country. And you know what? This is in line with my philosophy that I don't enjoy realmatics, but I'm actually really good at it. So that's why I should be on WoB episodes more. I have great takes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having tons of fun. This is a fun episode. I hope. Put your comments below if you had fun.
Another anonymous questioner, probably not the same one as before, asks, other than the Lord Ruler and people that are using the Bands of Warning, will we ever see a full Twinborn again? To which Ben says, yes, I think that you will. And we are at least halfway there with the reintroduction of Mistborn in some form.
Yeah, that's true.
In Lost Metal. So
that's true.
Yep.
That is an extremely it is baffling to me that Brandon would inject someone this powerful back into the story without them, because I think the main reason he was able to do that with the Lord Ruler is because the Lord Ruler, after a millennium of sovereignship, got careless with his power.
Oh yeah, he could have killed Vin in so many ways. Absolutely.
He, a full Mistborn who is also a full feruchemist, seems so incredibly difficult to defeat.
Yes, but we know one of the core ideas of the Cosmere is what do mortals do with the powers of a god? Is this is an aspect of that Brandon didn't get to fully explore.
Yeah, we didn't get the point of view.
Yeah, Rashek was very much an off-screen presence for most of book one, and then dead for the rest of it. So it's being able to delve more into, okay, this is kind of a problem having a person like this.
You know who that person would be? Who is a full Twinborn? One of the Lord Ruler's kids. You heard it here first.
And they are the serial killer in
easy. Nailed it.
3.
Yeah. I was gonna go with Maxilium, but we can go with that as well.
Maxilium.
Oh boy. I do think if we're looking at Space Age Cosmere, in terms of people of a power level that could go toe to toe with Oath 5 Knights Radiant, full Twinborn, I'm deeply please do not put your power level who would win in a fight ideas in the comments. That's so not where I want to go here, but in terms of who's able to stack up against a Knight Radiant at that level, I think I don't want to say that on record. I think Kelsier's right in that Scadrial needs people of that power level to be able to keep it, go toe to toe with the other powers in the Cosmere.
You heard it here first.
Don't
Kelsier's right.
Context. Don't do it.
Clip it. Clip it.
Here is the real title of the episode.
The interesting question to me here in this one is, will we ever see an ethically produced full Twinborn in Scadrial? Because the ethics of Allomancy and Feruchemy genetic power sets is a big issue right now.
Kelsier's right. Ruin and Preservation should have been. They made the genetic system. That's on them.
Cage-free, grass-fed.
correct in that this is a problem. Kelsier's desired answers for solving this problem are very wrong. That's my stance.
Yeah.
There you go. He's identified an issue. He has yet to come up with a solution that I enjoy to the issue that he has identified.
I enjoy your anger about it.
Yeah, he's
Nice.
wrong and shouldn't keep doing the things that he does. Okay.
Cool.
Anyway, that's my take.
This also, this might lead into the last question for this episode, because maybe like Brandon might just be talking about Hoid. He already is a Mistborn, like a Larasian
that's a good point. That's a good point.
It might just be like Hoid also somehow becomes a fairy chemist, and then it's solved. So,
wow,
like this answer doesn't imply like how many, like on which scale we are going to see full Twinborn again, and so it might be as simple as the guy who already is halfway there, basically, more than halfway there, because there's other magics, might just be Hoid in the end.
That is accurate. Cool. So let's go on to this last one. Questioner asks, Hoid is collecting investiture abilities like Pokemon cards. Indeed, given Tress. I mean, we do this already, but with Tress, he got a big one. I was wondering if he could, and maybe not necessarily him, but if somebody could collect all forms of investiture and be able to use all of them. Brandon, he certainly would like to try. What will happen? He's not even sure, but he would like to try. Is it possible? It is theoretically possible. We'll see if he is able to accomplish it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what would happen, but like clearly this is the long-term goal of Hoid, that we like literally see him like, I'm going to acquire all the things, but like I don't know.
It's really weird to me, because I don't think there is some kind of universal spell puzzle thing where if you collect them all, you unlock some special ability or you ascend to a higher level or anything like I don't think this is a puzzle that is solved in that way. I don't think it's a puzzle, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think if you just stuff all of the magic systems in a single person, that opens opportunities to them, whether they are real opportunities of, well, I now have all of these tools in my tool belt that I can use to solve a problem, or whether it's, well, I am now connected to all of these sources of investiture, which then maybe allows me to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't think just collecting all of the arcana of the Cosmere, like they don't combine into a super magic system or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think actually I'm having similar thoughts of, I think the question that this questioner has asked is not actually the interesting thing here about like what would happen if you did it. I think the interesting question is why.
Yeah.
Why is Hoid doing this? Is it just for giggles to see what would happen because he doesn't know? Or is there some kind of purpose that he has?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's just for giggles. Hoid doesn't seem like a just for giggles sort of.
He's doing
person,
something very specifically, like searching out Elantrian powers from Elantris time to Tress time. He wanted that for a long time.
What does he think he will be able to accomplish if he succeeds in this goal? I think is the more intriguing question here. And I bet you money Brandon would not answer that.
No, that's like literally
100%.
endgame Hoid stuff.
Yeah, that's Cosmere endgame.
Yeah. We're gonna see that, and it's gonna be so cool, I'm sure, to see what all Brandon has. He's thought of Hoid a bunch. I'm sure he knows exactly what's gonna go on with this. He's just like,
I will put another theory pin out there. I don't think it's putting Aiden and Alcium back together. I don't believe that's our end game.
Yeah, no.
Our Cosmere end game. I do not think we're reforging the gang. I know some people think that's where end game Cosmere is going. I do not.
How do you feel about the idea that he's not putting Elden Alcium back together, he is building a new Adenalsium.
What is the functional difference between those two objectives?
Personality, identity, past experience. It's the difference between resurrecting a god versus establishing a brand new god.
Well, it's like, I don't think that first one is possible. Adenalsium died, like, is no more.
I mean, shards can theoretically be combined back.
Yeah, like
The personality.
the shards could be the personality that was Adenalsium is gone. Like, you can't bring back that. Can you shove all the shards back together again into an uber god? Possibly. My personal theory is no, because I think the shattering did change, like, investiture. Like it created the intents of the shards. Like, they weren't, like, Adenalsium did not have 16 things pulling on him in the way that Sazed had 2.
I have a hot take. I wonder if what Hoid is trying to do is collect magics that would, like, directly connect with, like, that shard's power in a sense, right? Like, because Mistborn, you know, you're directly drawing from preservation. And same with Elantrian, you know, magics, right? And if you get that for all 16 shards and you have some way of, like, really pulling a lot of that power at once, maybe some very weird things can happen, maybe. Like, I don't think having all of these invested arts alone would be that special. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, that'd be cool. But, like, I think you need something extra, and then maybe you could fit it together in an interesting way. Like, maybe he could tug on enough power to do something interestingly, perhaps. Something like that, I think, is more plausible.
Going back to a wob from earlier, though, is like, vessels can just say no.
Yeah, so you have to kill every shard.
Things.
Kill every shard. You get Kelsier to manipulate Kelsier to get slapping. Punch some more gods. Easy.
I think you would get enough, like, magic system interference feedback to be able to perhaps circumvent a shard's ability to say no to you.
One shard, sure. All currently living shards going no at the same time. Very hard to, like, overcome.
Interesting to imagine, like, a Mistborn using powers and, like, say Sazed just says no and, like, cuts off the thing. Like, that is interesting.
I think I have just had a thought, and it's because, actually, of one of the previous questions where someone described a power that is Hoid's Black Lotus. I think this is a situation in which all of these sort of shard magic systems are a set of standard magic cards that are designed to work within a game. And Hoid has an idea of how he's going to create a commander deck using cards from every game in existence and is going to set up a sort of sequence that will just utterly break the universe. And he has an idea of what he wants to do and just needs to go and collect these specific cards that
he breaks out of the Cosmere, which obviously goes immediately into the Reckoner's verse, obviously. And then,
I think he has a specific, like, chain reaction of power A works with power B that interacts with this, which lets me loophole. Like, it's just the most ridiculous Magic the Gathering play that you've ever seen, because we know that Brandon is a fan of that, and that would make so
weird
much
magical Rube Goldberg machine.
Yeah.
Yes.
it was Axie's Black Lotus, but it still reminded you of this.
Right.
Just to be
you're
clear.
true. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
It was Axie's Black Lotus. But yes, I think Hoid is searching for his own Black Lotuses amongst the card superpowers of the Cosmere.
He just needs some pot of greeds, and then he'll be set.
Different.
What does it do,
this
though?
questioner called them like Pokemon cards. Like, there's something
That's
here to
also a
this
different
idea.
game.
No, you get 16 different cards from the 16 different decks. Come on.
No, it's
Okay.
like Exodia. Like
Yeah. You put them all together, and it's Exodia. Easy. Yeah,
chain
and you need
one.
Pot of Greed for the Exodia deck. Nice. Okay,
That's a lot.
Okay, we gotta get to who's that Cosmere character.
This character is from Roshar.
Menace. Tien.
Tom.
Braze.
Hoid in drag on a horse.
It's time for who's that Cosmere character. Caw. Welcome to Who's That Cosmere Character, the game show where you send 5 clues in a character to wtcc at 17shard.com. I read each clue aloud, and after each clue, these guys have a chance to guess who's that Cosmere character. Let's begin. This first one is sent from Human, as far as I know. And this first one,
Is that the username?
that's the
whole
username.
thing?
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Right.
And clue 1, this character uses a controversial invested art.
Human.
It's not human, no.
Kelsier.
It's not Kelsier.
Delof.
It's not Delof. I like it.
Spook.
It's not Spook. It's only controversial to you. No. Well, I guess he is Hemalurgy.
Yeah.
Clue 2. This character has a special interest in corpses.
Bleeder.
It's not Bleeder.
Vendel.
Relaine.
It's not Vendel.
Relaine.
It's not Relaine.
And soon.
It's not Tensoon. Clue 3.
I
This
thought
character
Relaine was
has a
really good
lover.
place. You sure it's not
Uh,
Relaine?
I'm sure, yes.
That's not my guess.
Waxilium.
It's not Wax.
Did somebody already guess Milan?
Nope. No one guessed Milan.
Okay, Milan.
It's not Milan.
Oh, it's Weed Fingers.
It is Weed
Ah.
Fingers.
Wow.
This is
Yeah.
the Blood Sealer, right? From the
Yeah.
Emperor's Soul? Yeah.
He has a liver? Wow, I
Yeah.
don't remember that either.
So
yeah.
Was it
my mind was actually going towards Jules, and I was like,
Oh,
what
yeah,
is
yeah.
this?
She is interested in A-Corpse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Not
it's like, what was the
wrong.
controversial magic there? So yeah,
Um,
just trying to make that fit.
like the letters, like Shy steals, like
Yeah, I
from
thought
him,
they
like
would do
our
his
letters
sister.
are home to his girlfriend.
Okay. Yeah.
And like when like she tries to make small talk about that, she's like, "Don't use your foul magics on her."
Clue
Okay.
4 was this character is adversarial with a main character. And clue 5, this character is from Cell.
Okay, nice.
Nice.
Good submission.
This next submission is from Luz Terran Telescope.
Oh,
That's funny.
nice.
Ooh.
It's the White Sand character, or like.
Yeah.
I am
Is it-
expecting something
Is it
obscure. so.
Zellion from the first incarnation of Pandora?
Clue 1. This character naps a lot.
Oh, frig.
Cheery, cheery.
It's not Cherry.
Is it
Eric.
Carr, the
It's
Inquisitor?
not Car. I really like that guess,
No,
though,
that's-
Alex.
Thank
That's such
you.
a good canon guess.
It is
Thank you.
Did you hear Argent's guess?
I did not. Sorry.
Eric.
It is not Eric.
That was I was gonna.
Yeah.
That was a guess I had in mind. Okay, who naps in the Cosmere?
Who naps in the Cosmere?
What is an?
What is a nap?
What constitutes a nap?
What is a
versus-
nap? It's a good question.
If you
I'm
nap
gonna
a lot-
guess Moloch, the Unmade.
It is not Moloch, the Unmade. All right, clue 2. This character does not have facial hair.
The Mink.
You know what?
It's not the mink. Yes, Alex?
The sibling.
It's not the sibling. I like it, though.
Sibling doesn't have facial hair, so
Look, I mean, maybe those rocks you could consider something like that.
I'm gonna lean into the nonsense of naps a lot means hibernates and just gonna go with like Leshwi.
It is not Leshwi. I like it.
Leshwi does canonically have facial hair, though.
That she removes
True.
consistently.
That is true.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
is capable of growing facial hair, but she does not keep facial hair.
Yeah.
Good
Like if someone's clean shaven,
Interesting.
I would say they don't have facial hair, even though they grow it, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
What does it mean to grow facial hair?
You have
To have facial hair, yes.
because it's still on the face, just under the skin.
Yeah.
Okay, I
true.
don't know why that struck me as incredibly gross, but it's true.
Look,
Technically.
humans are incredibly gross if you think about it. Just like all of the weird stuff that happens.
Everybody with eyebrows has facial hair. There you go. That's a
Ooh.
hot take.
True, yeah.
That's a good point. I don't know if that is necessarily what he's going for here.
I do not believe that is the case.
Maybe.
Yeah.
What's up,
Absolute.
Marvin? What do you think?
I have no clue whatsoever.
Well, I can give you another clue if you want to
Absolute.
pass.
And can you give me half a minute?
Let's sing the Jeopardy song. Let's sing the Jeopardy song together, guys.
I
Da, da,
just-
da, da. This video's been
character
flagged
that
from
wakes
YouTube.
up at least.
Yeah.
Axis.
It is not Axes. Clue 3. This character is a healer.
Well, there goes my guess.
Can't think of any healers, let alone,
Hmm.
I mean, outside of Liren, but he doesn't fit clues.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know. Maybe Liren's napping off screen a lot. You should probably guess him. Yes?
Lift.
It's not Lift.
Yeah, I was thinking as well, but
Yeah.
Lauren doesn't nap.
Vediladev.
Sorry, so walk that one by me again.
Medeledev.
Yeah, Vedel.
Oh, okay. The
Vettel.
Herald, okay. No, it's not Vettel. That's a great Marvin face right there. I like it. It's quality.
Yeah.
I'm over here like, do we know anything about Yim? Is there a thing mentioned about Yim?
He loves napping.
I'm also trying to get away from Rosha right now, but
Uh-huh.
I
know,
can't.
there's such obvious healing.
And I was trying to think, like, this is from Punny, so like,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but he could be like double debating us, and it's
That's
like
true.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like Kelsier. No, it's not Kelsier. But
Hoid.
I think Kelsier's the furthest thing the Cosmere has to a healer, actually.
They do not have facial hair as the clue, right? Not like they.
They do not have facial hair.
the clue is this character does not have facial hair.
Okay, so it's not like. Okay, yeah.
So what? This is so specific. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting hung up on the healer thing.
I know. I feel like it's got to be some kind of mundane healer, not a magic healer.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, but
trying
that's
to
not
about,
much
like,
easier.
Characters who have visited a healer of some sort.
Because I can't come up with anything else, and she's a healer that I know, the Stump.
It's not the Stump.
Like, she doesn't nap a lot, so
That was going to be one of my guesses.
yeah.
I have a guess ready for the next one, so I'm hoping the next clue doesn't invalidate it.
Well, you know,
I think I
gonna pass.
Is it Wayne?
It's not Wayne.
Okay.
Clue 4. This character's origins are very mysterious.
What?
Naps a lot.
Naps a lot.
Healer.
Yeah. Doesn't have facial hair.
The Lord
Mysterious
Ruler.
origins.
And the origins are very mysterious. It is not the Lord Ruler, Marvin.
Okay.
That's a good one, though.
Yeah.
Sayzed?
It's not Sayzed.
That was not going to be my guess, by the way.
Well.
I course corrected because the character that I was thinking of, we don't know anything about their origin, nor does it matter.
Sure.
So I don't think that would be a clue.
Yeah.
But I was gonna guess that dorky Argent in the Devotery of Mercy that Kaladin and Teft visit, and she's like clumsy with her glasses. I was like, that's a healer who doesn't have facial hair.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
I don't think she naps a lot, but maybe.
When was this sent in?
Oh, this was sent in October 2022.
Okay, so
Pretty
Last
recent.
October, but pre-lost metal.
but not so recent that it could be lost. Yeah,
Well, it can't be lost metal.
Can't be lost metal.
yeah, can be. And
Correct.
I mean, I hadn't assumed it could be Tress, but it can't be Tress.
Cannot be
Definitely
Tress.
can't be Tress.
Yeah.
I mean, preview chapters are a thing.
Yes, they are. You've seen one of our other
How many
episodes.
lost metal preview chapters have we had before October?
Quite a lot
20th?
of them at October 30th. That's for sure.
I should probably know, but I don't.
A lot, most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably like 12.
Like 15, 12. Well, yeah, 15.
It's like healer. Like it's like, is this one who heals others or one who is capable of healing themselves?
What does
Well,
it mean
I
to
thought
heal?
Good guess for that.
It was a good guess.
I mean, I think there's something like a blood maker would need to nap a lot while they're sick.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
kind
For
of
sure.
my vibe.
For sure.
Like I am kind of thinking about like, are there any other named Inquisitor characters? Like, I don't think it fits. Like there's Marsh, but I don't think it fits
There
Marsh at
is
all.
one other named Inquisitor, Alex.
Is it that named Inquisitor that I see whose
Well,
name I
Do you
don't
want to guess
remember?
that character?
Would you allow me to guess it like that?
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. Is it the other named Inquisitor?
No, it's
whom
not
I cannot recall?
Jendal. That's
Yeah,
the
I
one
do remember
Kelsier
that name.
kills at the end of Final
Okay,
Empire.
cool.
Yeah. it's
There
not
we
him.
go. Had a guess.
Is it Lemex's nurse?
It is not Lemex's nurse. I like that.
Because like she's a terrorist woman. She might be Farrah's
Yeah,
Mist.
true. That's a good
Wearing-
point.
Yeah.
Might be
Might
starting
be a
a lot of
slight in, we
hopefulness.
don't know.
Yeah.
I think this last clue will be very helpful.
Oh, I'm sure.
Clue
that'd
5. This character hovers between the realms.
Janat.
It is Janat.
So I would like to point out that I did not consider whether she fits the other clues in any capacity, but that is the only character that does this thing.
I mean, she does sleep until Odium arrives, right?
Oh,
She,
yeah.
has,
That's
she does
true.
nap a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
She doesn't have facial
What
hair.
is that napping in that
At least
case?
I got it unmade first round.
You get an unmade sibling. Like I thought you guys were going right on the right path. And Punny says at the bottom of this email, I guess we don't know she's healed any dead eyes, but come on. Quote, thank you for my eyes.
No.
That's what Punny says.
No.
No.
Bad
Send
clue.
your
Nope, I will not
comments-
give you Jean not as a healer punny objection.
It's like maybe
Bad clue.
like just like the general enlightenment
Sure.
angle
Yeah,
as
yeah,
healing,
yeah.
but no.
Yeah.
No.
I was gonna say, like, does Jean not describe what she does during enlightenment
Yeah.
healing?
Yeah.
And I don't think she.
I
if
don't
she
think she
had,
does.
I would give it to, but I don't
Yeah.
think she does.
Well,
Yeah.
send your
I'm gonna
complaints to
dispute
Lose
that
Terran
one,
Telescope,
Punny.
guys. You know where to ping him.
Yep.
do.
Yeah, you can go ping him right after the show that we're recording
yes,
here.
yes, we will.
Make sure you
Um,
also send them like Reddit DMs and like ping him in
No,
YouTube live
don't,
stream
don't.
chats.
Don't do this.
Don't.
And now on to our Who's That Cosmere character priority queue. If you are a Herald on Patreon for $10 a month or higher, if you want, you can submit us priority queue things where you will wait less than other times, probably.
I mean, this one was only 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's older things that are in the regular queue. Like that seems almost inconceivable. But you know,
Punny-
maybe Ben
Punny
didn't scroll too far
probably-
back. So
No, I think Punny edited the document to bump his submission. So
it's
Oh,
not in a
fire.
document, it's in an email that Ben screenshots.
He hacked
It's
into
not-
the email account.
he probably hacked into Google's servers.
Oh
then,
yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
He used mind control on Ben. No, okay.
Yes.
Continue.
He used mind control on you guys. Okay, this one is sent by Lemurny. And clue 1, this character uses an invested sword.
Adolin!
It's not Adolin.
Trying to find a clever
What's
thing.
the Fisher guy in Warbreaker? I can never
Old Claps?
something.
Old Claps?
Old Claps,
That
yeah.
guy? Is
Old-
that your guess?
Old
Yes,
chaps?
it is.
Chaps,
Oh,
maybe?
Chaps.
It might be
Chaps.
Chaps. I think it's
Old
Chaps.
something.
Is that your guess, Marvin?
That is my guess.
It is
Yes.
not Old Chaps.
Okay. Too bad.
Unlike Ian, I am an interested in being clever on clue 1, and I will just say Renarin.
It's not Renarin.
Azure,
It's not Azure.
aka Vivenna.
Yep. Clue 2, this character has wielded an invested art in combat.
Shashara.
It is not Shashara. But that is very true. And just know she used Nightblood to totally effing murder like tons of people, and that's
Twilight
why Basher had to kill his wife. Boom.
Yasna.
It's not Yasna.
Some parallels between those two.
Hmm.
Kaladin.
It's not Kalden.
Seth.
It's not Zeph. Clue 3. This character has interacted with Hoid.
Oh boy, these are such clues, huh?
Sixil.
It's not Sixel.
This feels like it is leading Rosharan.
Yeah.
Which makes me want
yes.
to break free of Roshar.
Have we
This is-
guessed Basher?
I was gonna say, has anyone guessed
We
No,
haven't.
you have not.
I don't think
guessed
we
Basher.
have.
No.
Are you
Because
guessing Basher?
that's obviously a trap, but
This is see when people do this with who's that Cosmere character, like they give us clues that are so non-specific. We now have to look at the clues and try to psychologically analyze the questioner in order to, like, we're playing a completely different game than the game we just played with Punny's clues.
what was the emotional state the questioner was in when they
I don't
sent
know.
that question?
Lemurny,
What character
please
are they
comment in
trying
Patron
to make
Lounge
us
or
think of so that we can get.
yeah.
Fine, Vasher.
That's not Basher. Obviously.
I did. It had to be done.
Yeah.
So the clues are like has wielded an invested blade,
Invested sword.
invested sword.
Invested art in battle.
Yes.
Yeah.
And has interacted with Hoid.
Yeah.
Specifically, what
too
was the
bad.
phrasing of clue 2?
This character has wielded an invested art in combat.
It's too bad Dervish has never met Hoid.
Because like I'm going to guess Sylphrena.
It's not Syl.
Because like we see her with like her sword like fighting
Yeah.
off death spread.
That's true. It's a good point. I like
and it's
it.
like she's part of the symbiosis that makes the night radiant. So like
Well, it's not Syl.
I have 10 guesses lined up.
Are they each of honor's purposes?
10 guesses ready to deploy.
Yes, they are.
100 million
Yeah.
on the way.
yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't tell you what any of them are.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
But
if we
Whatever.
know one, will we know the
Shalon.
other 9?
It's not
Get outta
Shalon. Clue
Give up.
4. This character is well known on their world.
I hate this game
Shalash.
that we're playing right
It
now.
is not Shalash.
Have we guessed Ishar?
You have not guessed
We have
Ishar.
not.
Then I'm going to guess him.
He is not Ishar.
Okay. That's 2 of my 10 guesses down.
Yeah,
I thought you
was
weren't
gonna
supposed
say,
to tell me what they were.
Got a lot of heralds to
Are
make
there-
my way through.
Yeah.
Are there other people who have wielded the honor blades that we know?
The stone shamanate.
It was well known.
Well known.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think Moash has ever met Hoid.
Yeah, that was also a
Has
clue.
anybody guessed Delena?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think so.
I think he would count as well known. Sure, and
I would say
not being
he
Herald.
definitely
So, yeah.
is well known for sure. I would agree.
Does
Oh,
the spear tip of the bands of mourning count as
No.
a sword?
That's a stretch.
Listen, it's
So
that kind of question.
stretchy.
We gotta stretch, right?
So stretchy.
God.
With Clue 5, this does uniquely identify a specific person, I will say.
It
Okay.
better. We've gotten so little so far.
It's like
Actually got a lot.
Dalinar is a compelling. I'm like, but Dalinar, whenever it's like a big name, I'm like, I don't trust it.
Yeah.
Better guess,
Especially with
ma'am.
clues like this.
It has to be a somewhat big name.
It's well known on the
Well
world.
known.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. It's definitely accurate for this character, for sure.
Yeah.
Dalinar.
It's not Dalinar.
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. What if it was Vasher and you didn't guess it? Like, come on,
Mhm.
like you don't want to be
Yeah.
that fool.
Yeah, I think the shame of guessing an obvious guess is less than the shame of never guessing an obvious guess.
True.
And that
True.
character.
Very
If you get,
and
if
the-
you give up, you gotta.
Yeah,
Um,
and Alex missed Janot, so that's up to her.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I did not miss Jana. There was a bad clue in there. It just nullified the whole thing.
Okay, meow.
Did
I'm
Seth-
coming for punny afterward.
Has Seth ever interacted with Hoid? I don't remember.
We already guessed Seth.
We
Earlier.
did? Okay.
Seth has been.
No, that was on the
Pretty sure.
other
Was that on
one.
previous?
That was on the invested sword one. So.
That's this one.
Wait,
Is
this
this
is
clue?
Oh, right. All right.
This
Okay. Yeah. So this
third one.
is.
That's this
I
one.
have guessed.
We're in such a state.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's getting late here. Okay.
Yeah.
a likely excuse.
What's the guy's name? This always happens when I try to guess this character. I don't know why I can't keep his name in my head. The guy who wrote the In-World Way of Kings.
No, it's not Nohadon.
Nodon?
All right.
No,
Yeah, I
hold on.
thought about him
Thank
as
you.
well.
There you go.
Clue 5. This character has made another commit suicide. I know you didn't expect that clue to end that way, did you?
No, we didn't.
What?
I will. All right. I'll give you that this is an interesting clue, person who sent
Yes.
this.
Do you want me to read all the clues again for you all?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Clue 1. This character uses an invested sword. Clue 2. This character has wielded an invested art in combat. Clue 3. This character has interacted with Hoid. Clue 4. This character is well known on their world. And clue 5. This character has made another commit suicide.
Jezrien.
It's not Jezrien.
It's got to be Herald stuff. That has to be. We willingly go.
I was 100% on the Herald stuff, but none of them fit the bill for me.
I have a guess, but like another person committing suicide.
Yeah.
Militia?
It is not Malishi.
I don't know that Malishi's. I was thinking about Malish, but I don't think Malishi's ever confirmed to have met Hoid. Was my sticking point.
Yeah, that's like the Hoid
that's
one
fair.
is. It does restrict it quite a lot, but
Even though Hoid's
Mhm.
talked to a lot of people, right?
yeah. Who of the heralds could it be? So, because I mean,
Yeah.
Like Kalak was gonna be my next guess, but I don't think he fits that bill anymore.
like I'm thinking that in one of the desolations, like they were the last. Oh, no, I don't know. Like they were the second last herald that was left, and so the last one just committed suicide for some reason
Yeah,
afterwards. But that
that's-
doesn't fit anything.
It could also. I'm out of the running because I've already sent my guess. So this is now a group project. But this could also be a Knight Radiant who is convincing their an old Knight Radiant convincing their Spren to break the oaths.
Yeah.
Has anyone guessed Kaladin?
Yes, that has been
Okay.
guessed.
I don't
I'm
remember.
pretty sure.
I legitimately don't remember.
Okay.
Do you want to guess Kaladin?
Because like he. Well, the fact that you don't remember
means it's not Kaladin.
means it's
Yeah.
not Kaladin. So
Who would
I don't remember
Kaladin
if
have?
I don't
Convinced
remember
to
if
commit
we
suicide,
guessed it or
though.
not.
Lezian?
If
Oh no, he
if
kills
we, if
Lezian.
we had
Never
guessed
mind.
Kaladin.
Yeah.
No, this feels like a Radiant and their Spren, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, I just think we had Kaladin on a previous one, maybe, but maybe this one?
Might
don't
have
remember.
been.
Yeah.
That's why I don't remember.
Because I'm not going to get it anyway. I'm going to guess Kaladin.
It's not
And if it
Kaladin.
is Kaladin,
No, it's not Kaladin.
okay. I would not have accepted this. Like,
Do we know any ancient Radiants who met Hoid? Is the thing.
Yeah,
Hoid
that's-
talks about
yeah.
meeting any ancient Radiants.
and they are well known on Rosha as
Well
well.
known.
Like,
They have to be
on the-
well
on the, on the
known.
way on the world. Sorry, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be Rosha, but if it's not Rosha, I don't know.
I do feel pretty confident about Roshar. at least.
Yeah.
Mm.
I have
Maybe it's not.
a bonus guess,
Okay.
but Ian hasn't guessed it.
Okay. Robonial was the thing that was stuck in my head. I don't. No.
Is that your guess?
Yes.
It's not Raboniel. Evgeni, do your bonus guess.
Nail.
Colonial D?
No, it's not Nail. You know who
Is
it
it
is?
a fused?
It's Sazed.
Wait.
He has a sword named Wax.
Yes.
Ah,
Like, who's the person who commits suicide?
The Khandra? At the end of Era 1.
Oh, convincing
Yeah.
them
He
to
enables
take out all of their
Lessie-
spite.
yeah.
Oh.
Okay. This is a clever one, and I can see how all the clues fit, but I don't like it regardless. Like,
Yeah.
What? Say the phrasing of clue
Yeah.
5 for me again.
This character has made another commit suicide.
Okay.
yeah, that's fair. And the first one again, like, has
Oh,
been
yeah,
there
sure,
for
sure,
years,
sure.
right?
They're
This
still
char-
alive. They came back.
This character uses an invested sword.
Okay, yeah.
There's a lot
The
of
sword is invested.
there's a lot of technically correct in all of this, and so I can't begrudge it too much.
Oh, that was good. That was good. I liked it.
Mhm. At the
At least
very
none of
least,
us have
I'm
to
sure
feel
it was
bad.
entertaining.
Yeah, and none of us have to feel bad for not getting it. Like, this wasn't like,
Yeah.
I want to know if anybody in the comments actually
Oh, yeah.
successfully guessed that one before the answer came out. I'm going to need people to sound off
Yeah.
about whether or not
Let's-
anybody
YouTube
got
comments are known to be very
Yeah.
no lying happens in YouTube
that.
comments.
This is a
No,
place of honor. You need to tell the truth
no.
if you
That's
are in
just
our
for you,
comment
Alex.
section.
That's just for you, Alex.
Listen, I'm a Skybreaker. I will come after you. You say oaths when you watch Shardcast. Otherwise, you're opening yourself up to vulnerability and we'll smite you. So.
Alex will personally find you. Awesome. Well, that was very fun. What a fun episode. You can find us on 17shard.com for all your news, discussion, theories, and fun that you could ever want. You can support our Patreon for as little as $1. We have a sweet Discord server with like just so many things going on. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And we will see you next time for presumably more Words of Brandon, because there's a lot still to do, for sure. We're not done with Dragonsteel yet.
And then even more.
And then even more.
Yep.
So we'll see you all next time.
Bye.
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 Caw.